After a long day of camping, it's nice to unwind with a nice, relaxing campfire song. I call this one the Campfire Song. Let's gather round the campfire and sing our campfire song. Our CAMPFIRESONG song. And if you don't think that we can sing it faster, then you're wrong. But it'll help if you just sing along. CAMPFIRESONG song. CAMPFIRESONG song. And if you don't think that we can sing it faster, then you're wrong. But it'll help if you just sing along. CAMPFIRESONG song. Patrick.
Song. CAMPFIRESONG.
Squidward. Good. It'll help. It'll help if you just sing along. Nah, wasn't that relaxing?
Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 126. And you know what I'm surprised by?
What are you surprised by?
The mindless trivia did not include the ingredients of jelly babies. I'm Keith.
Ooh, I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
That would have been great mindless trivia.
What do you suppose is in Jelly Babies?
Babies.
Jelly.
It's written on the bag. Jelly babies.
That's the two ingredients.
Might be some sugar in there.
Well, maybe some
The sugary Jelly Babies.
cornstarch to cover the outside.
High fructose corn syrup.
They are covered in cornstarch. Where did we learn that? To get them out of the molds.
I don't remember.
Where did we learn that?
We knew that?
Somebody told us that, or it was in a special?
No, I think it was in The
why
Doctor
they're all-
Revisited. They talk about
that's what it was,
the cornstarch
yeah.
covered
Jelly babies.
treats.
Is that why they're all...
That's all like powdery
Yeah,
and
they've
white.
got
Yeah.
cornstarch on them because that's how they get them out of the mold.
just thought the ones I'd been buying here at Brits were dusty. Didn't stop.
I knew they were there on purpose.
The health standards are a little lower in the UK. Is that what you're implying?
They had to import them, so they were on a boat, and they
They're
probably
3
went a long
months
way
old.
around.
You know, that's how decaffeinated coffee came around.
Really?
Yeah, coffee was actually coming over from somewhere. I don't know where it was. And the cargo hold had a leak, and so water, I guess, washed in onto the coffee beans. And when they got them back, they dried them out and found out that they were still usable. They could still make coffee out of them, but it had completely decaffeinated the coffee, the salt water. And so, Sanka has something to do with that. I don't know if the boat's name was Sanka or the particular coffee was Sanka, but Sanka was the first brand of decaffeinated coffee. Seawater. There's a mind-numbing trivial fact to destroy that computer.
What I'm surprised is it's coming from you and not Mr. Coffee over here.
I don't drink decaf.
Well, I would have thought...
I didn't know that story, actually.
As your kryptonite, I
I'm
would
sure
have
I
thought you would have
butchered
known
it,
all
but
about it.
there's some semblance of correctness in that story.
There's a nugget of truth in there somewhere.
It's all true. I think I just kind of muddled it up a bit.
Here's the true parts of that. We import coffee.
And there is such a thing as decaffeinated.
And there is such a thing. Which is weird when you
And
think
Sanka.
about the whole point
You're
of...
welcome.
Yeah, well, this is the weird thing in my mind is that the whole point of the Boston Tea Party, the English were taxing the tea. And we grew coffee here in the colonies, so that's why they
Did
went
we
through
ever
the-
really
We
grow
grow
coffee?
coffee?
No, they totally grew coffee. That's why they switched over. America became a land of coffee drinkers.
They
because
grew
didn't
coffee
want
in the South Americas.
No, they grew it in the South. I kid you not. Coffee
grew
was a
coffee
crop.
here?
They grew coffee here.
How'd they grow coffee?
Wasn't
It's
very
not warm
good
enough.
coffee.
I don't know. I'm not making this up. They grew coffee here.
I think the only semblance of truth in that was the fact that there was a Boston Tea Party.
At any rate, we threw the tea overboard because we didn't want to pay the taxes on it, and the nation started drinking coffee as a replacement because it was homegrown.
Oh, we grew tea here.
No, we didn't grow tea here.
I think we did grow tea here.
We grew tea too, but we threw the... I'm not going to talk to you
Tea
guys tonight.
for two, and two for tea.
I was totally going to make a Terminator joke, but that works too.
Okay,
Are you
No, really?
emulating this?
So wait,
No,
okay,
Wikipedia.
now I'm intrigued. Back to your story. We didn't grow tea here, so
did
we
grow some
threw
tea.
it over. We did.
We did, but they were still importing.
We were importing tea. We got mad over taxation. We threw the tea overboard, dressed as Native Americans, which, wow, that's sensitive. And then threw the tea
Let's talk about how
overboard.
discriminatory we were all the way back then.
Threw the
Who
tea
can we blame for
overboard.
this? The natives.
We essentially decaffeinated the tea, and then we. But what's your point? I don't. I guess you get that.
You would think that if
We chided you enough. You
we
weren't allowed to get to your point.
we were growing coffee here, so I don't understand why it became such a big to import, because it was at one point in time.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Why do we import coffee?
Why are we
when
importing coffee?
I don't
Maybe
know.
it's because it's not warm enough and the crop sucked, so they had to go elsewhere for it.
What does Endovus say about it?
Wait.
wait.
I'm not finding any history of the caffeine, the
I know
decaffeination
what
of
happened.
coffee.
What?
I know how they do it now.
I know what happened.
What?
That horrible villain from Superman 3 used the weather satellite lasers to dry up the crops. And we had to import coffee from somewhere else. You and that stupid movie.
That was a horrible way to get a chide in it.
I set all that up just to get it. I've been planning that for a week now. A week
Wow.
and 3 days. Just I had this whole thing, man. I hope somebody brings up decaffeination of coffee.
In a
Because
week
that'll
and-
be my end.
You had a week and 3 days, and you came up with that.
No.
You know, there really is no such thing as decaffeinated coffee.
All coffee has caffeine, despite how much is decaffeinated.
Very small trace amounts, but it still has caffeine.
Well,
So when people say regular unleaded, it doesn't
oh
really
my
count.
gosh, we are boring listeners now. Chrissy has all but turned off her iPod. Oh, it's Windows all over again.
How was your guys' weekend? We haven't even gotten that far.
Do you think that there's a patch of ocean somewhere where there's a bunch of fish and seahorses and things that are all jittery
I
because they got the coffee, they got the caffeine? It leached out of the bottom of the Senka boat.
Not anymore. I think this was years ago. So.
Maybe it caused a genetic imbalance in the fish population, and they've been breeding caffeinated fish, but they're at a lower level of the ocean, like in the abyss, that we haven't got to yet, and they're plotting their revenge.
I swim around awake all the time.
They became
There's a
they became
mad.
Silurians.
Silurians.
There's a specific coffee bean that was discovered in 2004 that contains half the caffeine of
All
normal.
right, well, that's the name of this episode, The History of Coffee.
There's your title.
I don't drink coffee.
Interesting. How was your guys' Memorial Day?
Fishy.
Fishy?
I didn't work at it.
No.
Well, you're just off tonight, aren't you?
What day is it? We're recording on, what is it now?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning.
And by Wednesday morning, we mean Tuesday night. Because none of us would get up and record one morning.
We love you guys. Not that much.
The only time I've gotten up and recorded in the morning was at Gallifrey when we went to breakfast and recorded. And that was because we were too tired the night before. 7-minute little.
So what's in the news?
7-minute little. Wait, what are we doing?
When I
No, we're
talked about
talking
this
about what we
weekend,
did this
I
weekend.
didn't really do much.
I didn't do much either.
I finished Grimm season 1. Highly recommend it.
Eh.
Went to a friend's birthday party on Saturday night. That was some good fun. Pretty laid back. That's about it.
Saturday, we bought some sod grass for the front yard. And then I installed windows. No, there was we got this patch of lawn
A cup of coffee.
We've got this patch that we can't grow any grass in from scratch because it just never takes root. So we said, we'll let somebody else grow the grass for us.
Did you try the glue?
No, I didn't try all. Didn't try gluing everything. So we laid sod, and then the kids and I camped out in the backyard.
Did you
How'd
lay
that
the sod
go?
down green side up?
Great. No, brown side up, right?
No, it's green side up.
No. Well, now I know what I'm doing next weekend.
With a spatula. Get the snow shovel out there and just flip them over.
Those things are heavy. We bought them in like 4-foot rolls. They're heavy when they're rolled up. You wouldn't think grass would be that heavy. I mean, there's dirt in there too, but
I believe it.
man, they're heavy. But yeah, no,
was your camp out?
we pitched the tent in the backyard, and the kids and I went out there and slept in the back. You know, we couldn't really tell campfire stories because they didn't want to scare Mason. So we did a sing along where we just sang our favorite
Kumbaya?
songs. No, we didn't do any of those, but we did sing the SpongeBob SquarePants campfire song, which look that one up if you've never heard it. It's actually
I've never
pretty
heard
funny.
that one, so.
There's your opening theme music.
It's called the campfire song. So, and then we just kind of sat around, talked, and then went to sleep. And I woke up in excruciating pain from sleeping on the ground because I didn't go get the air mattress at my parents' house. It's a queen, and I wasn't sure it would fit, but when I set the tent up and got everything in it, I went, oh, yeah, we could have put a king size in it. It's a 4-person tent. It's huge.
Oh, yeah, then a queen would have been no problem.
It's huge.
Got the Harry Potter tent.
Yeah. You walk inside, experience. And so no, that was a lot of fun. And then
So you went all the way over to
Sunday.
your dad's last weekend, and you moved to dresser drawers and a bureau
Yeah, I
and
didn't
all
do-
that kind
I
of stuff,
didn't
but
do all
you
that.
couldn't go over and get an air mattress.
Well, it was one of those things where, well, it wasn't that I couldn't go get it.
too
Actually,
heavy.
I was gonna go get.
Your back was still hurting.
My mom had.
Your knees when you blew out.
My mom and dad have
poking fun at your
two
expense. I'm
twin
sorry.
mattresses that they used to have two twin mattresses. And when I called my mom, because they went to Arkansas this weekend, I called my mom and I said, can we borrow the air mattresses? And she said, well, one of them got a hole in it, so we threw it away. So we only had one twin. And I thought, well, that's not fair if I'm sleeping with an air mattress. She said, well, we got the queen. I said, we need a queen? Yeah. And so then I thought about it. I thought, yeah, I don't think... So I didn't think it would fit. So once we put the tent up, then I was like, yeah, I still could have gone over and got it. But I thought, we put enough blankets down, we'll be all right. No. It's a hard ground.
You mow that ground. You ought to know better than that.
Mason, I tell you,
You could have
boy,
laid on the sod.
poor kid. Yeah, he went, hey, I didn't think of that. We can't pitch it out in the front yard.
Nice soft bit of grass.
Mason, that poor kid, he tossed and turned all night. Of course, he's got allergies, and even though we gave him his allergy medicine, he couldn't breathe very well. Tossed and turned all night. We had a great time. But he woke up at one time, and I said, what's wrong? He said, my body hurts. I thought, oh, no, he was not getting sick. And I said, why does your body hurt? He says, because the ground too hard? Yes. I was like, oh, all right. Well, he's, about this tall? To the viewers, I don't know, 4 foot, or listeners, or not viewers. And so I said, well, here, get up. So I turned his pillow, which is really long anyway, like long ways. And I said, okay, now lay down. And he lay down on the pillow, and he slept the whole rest of the night. So I know that's what it was. Once he was laying on that pillow, it was fine. So. Anyway.
Pretty much summed up every reason I don't camp.
Camping's one of those things I love to do. It's just, once you get out there and the little nuances of it are annoying, but the overall experience is totally worth it to me. And this was kind of a trial run because I want to take the kids have always asked to go camping at the lake, and I thought, I got to see if you guys can make it through the night. So that was this weekend was a trial run. Was it? If you guys can get through this, we'll go to the lake and we'll camp out, do the actual camp out experience. So, and they both enjoyed it and did fine. So, and Sunday was Arrested Development Day. Woo! Which I've watched all but the final episode. Because I don't want it to end. I don't want it to end. All 15 episodes were released. Season
Blah,
4.
blah, blah.
He's there.
I was going to spoil it for you.
He's there. Oh, yeah. Well, he's only in one episode. Now I'm spoiling it. No, it's amazing. I don't know if anybody... You guys obviously have never seen Arrested Development, right?
I've seen a handful of episodes, but not sequentially.
You've got to. You have to start from the beginning. And I can't believe both of you haven't watched it. It's so meta. And it was... The reason it got canceled is because it was so ahead of its time. If it was released, nowadays, it would totally be a huge success because it's meta, it references itself, it is so integrated into the things that just bug you about society or you appreciate about society. It's all those things, but they really hit the ground running. It doesn't feel like they've left, in my opinion.
That's what I heard.
The only thing is that because the shows are formatted a little differently, that was the only thing that was a little out of sorts because they obviously shot all these episodes very close together, and they were shooting around the schedules of all the people that are in here because they all have other projects that they're doing now. So they each episode focuses more on one individual, and even though others are in the episode with them, there's a lot of cross-referencing to previous episodes and whatnot. So it all kind of winds down and makes sense as the season goes on. But The jokes are there. To me, it's just as funny as it was before. And it's amazing to see all of the little, like, there's always been peripheral characters, and then there's always been peripheral characters, and everybody has been there so far. I mean, and it might be a minor, quick cameo role, but everybody has come back, and it's amazing to see all these people pop up, and you go, oh, that's so-and-so from season 2. That's so-and-so. You know, it's just, it's really, really good. And I highly recommend anybody to go back. You have to start from the beginning, though. You can't start in the middle of the series, any of the series. You have to go back to the beginning because everything is referential. I mean, it goes from point A to point B, and you have to have been there for the entire run. So, highly recommend it. Now I'll get off my Arrested Development box because it's awesome.
It's in my instant queue. Has been for a while, though.
Yeah. Ditto.
I keep pushing you to watch it.
Yeah.
I know you'd appreciate it even more than Sean. He's a type, you know. You're just not the type. What'd you do this weekend, Sean? Oh, hey, okay. What did you do Sunday night? Because I got a text after I tweeted out that I was sick. I got a text back that kind of implied that you probably were partying or something. Or were having a really, really rough day.
Oh, yeah, I drank all weekend.
Which is unusual for you. Because
It's
you don't
very
drink.
unusual for me because I don't normally drink. Yeah, we had Patrick's birthday party on Saturday.
Well, that was the funny thing about it, because when you texted that, I thought, but Patrick's party was last night. Are you still drinking?
What started the whole thing is that Mel and Corey, my Mel and her friend Corey, they were talking about they wanted to get together and throw a barbecue for Memorial Day. And in their mind, it was an excuse to get together and drink and polish off all the alcohol that's still at our house from New Year's. Because we're tired of drinking over it. And we don't drink, so it's just sitting there. So we thought, okay, we'll do this. Well, then Patrick announced that he wanted to have his birthday party at our place because we had a nicer place than his apartment. And we were like...
Bigger.
Okay, well, yeah, we could do that. And then Mel was like, well, we could do with our party. It's like, have them both. People come over Saturday for Patrick's, and then they come over Sunday to eat. I mean,
There you go.
I'm all right with that. So we did both back to back, and there was spirits flowing freely at both of them. And I drank a lot. I still don't think I ever got to that completely. I mean, you know me. I still maintain that I don't think I've ever actually been drunk. But I was very fuzzy by the end of Sunday night.
That's not true.
Not from what I've heard.
Well, that one time, but I still honestly looking
You
back
were pretty
on it.
drunk at your bachelor.
Well, my bachelor party, I was. I played good Halo, so I had to have been wasted. But I still feel like I was in control of my faculties, even if I wasn't all the way.
Well,
there.
yeah, no.
You know what I mean? I'm not stupid drunk.
Yeah, you weren't stupid drunk. I've never seen you stupid drunk. So.
But I could
You're a
try.
responsible drunk.
Anyway, that's what it is. I just can't let go.
The nice thing is you're not a weepy or angry drunk. That's what I can't stand, weepy and angry drunks.
Yeah.
I am not a
There's some
weepy
of them
or
that are
angry
weepy, and there are some of them that get angry. And I don't even want to be around you if you're going to be like that when you're drunk.
Corey was making jelly beans.
That's what she called
Was
them.
that what she was calling them? Literally tasted like black
She
licorice.
can't make jelly beans. Easter Bunny makes jelly beans.
Well, whatever. It was a big drink, and it was purple.
you
Easter
ever
Bunny
seen Hop?
poops it,
Yeah,
apparently.
I haven't seen Hop.
No, but they were purple.
He poops
and
jelly beans.
They tasted like black licorice.
Well, that's not jelly bean. That's black or licorice.
I don't know what it was. Like I said,
I guess the black jelly beans.
I think that's the
I was
idea.
not involved in the construction. I just drank them.
Well,
You like black licorice?
Oh yeah, these were really good.
You're full. You're full. You're full. I told you I'm not going to be able to talk tonight.
Glenn's had 5.
No, I haven't had any. That's the sad thing. Maybe I should start drinking. My speech will clear up.
Juice. But so yeah, we did that, and then I worked all weekend except for Sunday. So big sale weekend.
Oh.
The joys of retail.
you got a disc stuck in a tree too, didn't you?
Twice.
I'm
continuing.
You said that, and I'm still on movies.
Oh,
So you got a DVD
At
stuck
work.
up in a tree.
It wouldn't clean
At
properly,
work?
and I took it aside and hucked it across the parking lot. No, we did go out and play Big Shunga, the temporary disc golf course.
Still haven't played it.
Me neither.
Indefinitely temporary.
Well, it's
No,
going to go away at
it's-
some point. It's not there.
It only got put in a couple weeks ago. It wasn't there over the fall and winter.
Oh.
And spring.
Yeah, so
it
it must
got-
be a tournament
It
coming.
is a tournament course. And,
Well, there must be a tournament coming. So.
well, they had one already. I think they've got
Oh, they
one
have.
more planned.
Oh, okay.
But you need to get
But you're
over
free
there.
to play that course, right? It's
Yeah,
not,
no, it's just there's a park. So
I need to play it.
They go in and they put these baskets up, and everything's. I mean,
I need to play it.
quite honestly, I think we got to take your truck over there and just run off with all the baskets because
They're not planted.
They're not planted. So we could set up our own course.
Oh, that's good. We are such a criminal mind.
Yes, I am. And but apparently the rich people that live along the one side of the park will never actually allow a permanent placement to go in
I
because
see.
disc
Because
golfers
of
are a
who they
bad
are.
element.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I reply, if the city gave us a trash can every now and then on these courses, it wouldn't be nearly as bad as they make it.
That's true.
Hey, you should take me this weekend.
Okay. But yeah, I'm
What time we
continuing my
going?
quest to
What time are we
hit.
going?
I didn't ask you to go. No.
I invited myself. I don't care.
Oh, just kidding.
You're not the type.
I don't care. Saturday.
I'm working.
Preferably not in the heat of the
I
day.
have to go Sunday because I'm working Saturday. But
Okay.
if
Sunday. I
it's
think I
still
have
there,
anything going on.
I think so. Anyway, I'm continuing my quest to get hit every tree in every disc golf course ever. And this time I actually managed to get one stuck up in the tree.
Was that the first time you've got one stuck in the tree? I've been with you twice where you've got
Yeah.
stuck in a tree. We're down there throwing other
I
discs at it, which I think that's real smart.
Well, we didn't bring the sandbags.
Damn it, we got the Sean's down, but now mine's stuck.
I threw one on because it kind of folds back on itself and does this. And there's one where you're in this cluster of trees that you have to throw out of. And I hauled off and just teed off, and it was this beautiful power strike. It was a Tron. The disc flew out there, and it was straight and true, and it had oomph behind it. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever thrown in my life. I kid you not. And a tree jumped out in front of it. And the disc went whack. I mean, it hit hard, head on, as center mass on this tree as you could possibly get. I mean, there's no recovery from that. It's just bam, I hit the tree. And the disc bounced off of it, hovered for a second, and went around the tree and continued on its original flight.
What?
I kid you not. It was literally, if this had been a cartoon, the disc would have gone and kept going. And we sat there, and Mel and I's jaws dropped. I just took physics. There's no way you can throw it and get it to do that.
Well, that's because you took math light physics.
I should have taken theoretical physics.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, even in theory, that doesn't work.
Which box is bigger?
So did you...
So that wasn't the one that got stuck in a tree.
No, that wasn't it.
Oh, okay. That's where I was going.
No, that one laughed off the tree like, and kept going.
And so the tree plotted its revenge and started passing the word
Yeah,
down.
much later, the trees went snag.
So did you listen to the Tron Legacy soundtrack?
I did not. I haven't downloaded it to my phone yet.
I don't just seeing if
I haven't.
Just seeing if it was as cool as the experience.
I thought it was great.
It was as soon
Keith's
as
going to come with us on Sunday and won't say a word because he's listening to Tron Legacy soundtrack.
Yeah,
Legacy.
Yeah, it's a legacy.
As soon as I let go
I don't
of
have the
it,
Tron Uprising soundtrack.
as
yet.
soon as I let go of it, I wish I'd had the Tron soundtrack going because it was like, whack! Oh,
Do,
Did you see they're putting in a course up at Perry, apparently?
Lake Perry?
Yeah.
Notice I just said Lake Perry, and then I got after you for saying Melford or Lake Mel.
Perry Lake.
Perry Lake.
I got to write my letter to President Farley and say, Washburn really needs a disc golf course.
There's enough land.
It totally would get used. I can't. I
It
can't
would
believe
get
you haven't
used
done
all
it
the
yet.
time.
They get used all the time.
You got to do it. Just do it.
just
Just do it.
Just go get the ones from
Yeah,
Chicago.
No. Not just. I don't mean just start putting one in. What are you doing? I'm building a golf course. Or I've designed it.
I've got it all plotted out. Don't worry.
You could get all these different clubs involved. Like you could have like the math club plot out the. What?
Yeah, you're probably right.
What? No, I'm
The
serious.
physics club and
Physics club. You could get all these people in on the design and the
Glee club?
construction.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's not way. You could have the Glee club out there singing while you're installing it. You just get everybody involved.
Stop distracting these people with your catchy tunes.
That's the hazard on hole 3. We call them the sirens.
That worked for about 3 weeks, and then Glee Club got tired of getting pelted by discs.
Oh, we've gone silly.
They don't take requests either. All right. What else did you do this week?
You
Anything
saying
else?
nearer my God to thee? No.
How?
That was it.
Stuck in the middle of you.
I just have now that scene from the paintball episode of Community. Write an original song.
Should we move on to feedback? We don't have any news.
No news this week.
So
Doctor Who's not on.
Doctor Who's still not on.
Still not on.
Long wait.
We didn't do this just yet.
This just in.
Doctor Who's still not on.
Dead. Because last Saturday you were well aware that Doctor Who is not on. Was it weird for anybody else? Not having who to go watch?
Last Saturday we did. Oh, this week.
This Saturday, yeah. Saturday.
It was
a bit
honestly,
weird.
it was almost a little bit. It was almost a little bit of a relief because
Really?
Mel was asking, "So what Vortex homes
As
do you have?"
busy as this weekend was, yeah.
Yeah.
It would've been
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Slit.
It was kind of
Slip
nice not to have to
everything
avoid social media
in.
on
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
But it was nice to be able to just. I got one show. I got to watch this half-hour program, and we're done. I did my homework for the rest of it early, and I don't remember any of it now. So
I did go back and rewatch Name of the Doctor, as I said I would.
Oh, yeah, you were supposed to report back.
I did enjoy it the second time. I still have to gloss over the fact that River's there. Because here's the one thing that I did nail down, is River's story ends in the library, and I'm fine with that. And so when you go beyond that end point with the character, that's what I felt didn't need to happen. Again, she was the vehicle to be there for the events to happen. But I've always enjoyed this non-linear storyline of River. But we've had her introduction and we've had her death. Well, her
departure.
And I've always liked that the departure was always the first point. And now this brings it beyond that point. And so that's what bugs me the most about that, I think.
I can see that.
The other thing that I
So you're
noticed...
saying that because River's in it, it cheapens Silence in the Library?
Yes. That's what I think it is.
It's not as much of a loss since we can access her at any time from
That's
anywhere,
the other thing is,
apparently.
and the whole idea that the Doctor always sees her, it's not because he's seeing the image from the library, or the consciousness from the library. It's because he sees the memory of her everywhere. And so that, I mean... It's like I would have liked to have him been left with the memory. But now, it's like Keith said, now you can access her at any time.
You don't know that you can access her at any time.
I still
Apparently
have a problem with the fact that, although you did kind of soften this a little bit by saying that, she's in the world's largest library, she can get the information. So Vaster didn't necessarily know she was sending the message to River, and that River would pick it up beyond her life, or her physical life. And so that's what always bugged me, is why would Vaster contact her in the library? But it's like you said, she just gets her mail anywhere. So I was able to overlook that. But getting beyond that, it's a lot better on second viewing, because I instead of letting the fanboy stuff get me all distracted this time, I was able, because I've already seen it, I was able to focus more on the story, and it's good. It's an enjoyable, it's a fitting finish. It almost felt more like a story this time. Last week I kept complaining it felt like a lead up. It still feels like a two-parter, as I think you left it.
Yeah.
Feeling like a two-parter. It still feels like it's the first part of something yet to come. But the other thing that I'm surprised we didn't touch on last week is this episode definitively qualifies the fact that the first Doctor ran with the TARDIS just about the same age he was.
Oh, yeah.
Because
that's a good point.
he still had that physical form. Because as we know, Time Lords do age within their regenerations.
Yeah.
They do go from a younger version to an older version. We've seen that happen, or we've heard that happen. And obviously that precedent was set for the Doctor himself when the Master aged him so many years, the actual years that he would age. So that kind of solidifies that he wasn't a very young man when he ran off.
Yeah.
Now, at least physically, wasn't a very young man when he ran off. So that
and Susan was with him at the beginning.
Susan was with him. Yeah, because she darts in there first, and then he stops.
Or at least, I'm sure there's some angry fanboy out there going, some unknown woman who
I
may have looked like Susan. When
I apologize to you because you're half right. The first shot we see is in black and white on a security screen. Then they cut to there where we're at, and that's colorized. So you were right, thinking that was black and white. You do see it on a security screen, and it is black and white at that point. And then we cut to the closer shot, which is colorized. So,
when JLC actually shows up.
Yeah, when Clara actually says something to the Doctor. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
Anyway, yes, on revisiting the episode, I enjoyed it a lot more. Again, I had to turn off some of the things that bothered me, and by doing that, it made me enjoy the episode more.
Oh, good.
But,
Uh-oh.
well, yeah, there's always a but. I always let the other show. I shouldn't have to turn those things off on first viewing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
If they're there to bug me, then to me that's an error. That's a flaw.
Well, I've talked to a lot of people. I've got a Who fan at work, and been talking with some of my peeps from school, and they all come to the same conclusion that we all loved it, but it still feels like, man, I wish this hadn't been a truncated season that you tried to shoehorn this story into. We would have liked to have seen maybe some of those elements from the very beginning prologue sprinkled in throughout. And not necessarily as overt as what we got there, but just a hint of what was going on. Something that would have just, even one scene that had nothing to do with the rest of the episode you were watching, that made you go, what is the deal here? And then we get to this one and you realize that they're all interconnected dots, you know. But
I'll tell you what I thought would come out on YouTube, and maybe it still will, is I'm hoping that somebody will take and cut together some clever interactions between General Louise Coleman and whole episodes of Doctor Who, by taking some of not just stuff from this, because General Louise has been of some other things, but maybe take some clips from other things and be able to cleverly cobble something together that makes it look like she's actually interacting in such a way. I think that might be fun. So I really thought somebody would do that.
Babel Color, the gauntlet has been thrown.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's move on because we've spent too long on my second review. All right, so let's move on to feedback.
Thanks to Keith.
Oh, we're going way back.
He's got K9. Aren't they quite the pair? When it's cold outside, he's got a scarf to wear. I guess you'd say, what can make me squeal this way? My Tom, my Tom, my Tom, talking about my Tom Baker. We've got so much feedback, I had to write this song. You've got a comment thread like 20 pages long. I guess you'd say, what can make me squeal this way? My Tom, my Tom, my Tom, talking about my Tom Baker.
Bravo. All right. First bit of feedback comes from
Alex. He writes, "Hey guys, Alex here. Long time no feedback. Sorry, I just got a weird sense of deja vu there for a second. Once again, it's been quite a while since I last wrote in, since I'd fallen behind with the show due to exams and forgetfulness. Mostly forgetfulness. Forgetfulness, admittedly. You know how it is. 1 minute you're spending 50 years of your life preparing to facilitate an invasion of carnivorous ice for the great intelligence. The next you're opening a cookie jar / lunchbox and getting your hand bitten off by one of those, worm things. What are they called again? Who am I? Anyway, my apologies for the long silence.
This one.
No, just wait.
Deja vu.
I'm getting a very big sense of deja vu here. Okay.
Anyway, my apologies for the long silence. I'm currently mainlining the episodes I've missed and am up to 111. While I was planning on holding off sending in feedback until I was all caught up again, there was a discussion in this most recent episode that really irritated me. I decided to need to write and clarify a few things. I'll have you know...
Well, he's going to feel foolish, isn't he? When he actually gets to some later episodes and realizes that everything he's written in there has already been used.
Are you sure we didn't read that last week? I mean, I know we're doing the
well, he didn't send it till the 21st, so
yeah, it was only 8 days ago.
Week. Okay.
It's been
maybe
10 since we recorded.
Maybe I read it when it came in.
It came in like Monday.
I thought I remember you reading it, though. I remember you reading clarify.
I made the clarify joke last week. That's my point. Phil made the forgetting thing last week, or not last week, a few weeks ago.
Well,
so that's why this all feels like
back at the Snowman.
A few weeks ago. That's what. So
a few months ago.
I'll sit quietly. I really thought we read this one.
I'll have you know I'm at the height of my career as a football quarterback. No amount of injury is going to put me off my fast track to fame and Super Bowl success. You may laugh now, but soon you'll rue the day you mocked pro footballer and Hoovian fanatic Alex Smith.
Saying we talked about Alex Smith in the Super Bowl. Okay.
But I remember
that's why this all feels...
Aside from that...
What is it that Stans calls it in Ghostbusters? It's past life intruding on present time or something like that. I'm experiencing that right now. I'm not kidding. We have had this conversation. Keep going.
Aside from that, I'd also like to highlight a few of my favorite quotes from your Snowman review, which I listened to while Series 7B was airing. My personal favorites were, I'm calling it now, The Great Intelligence Won't Be Returning, from Sean, and only... a bumbling idiot would predict March 30th when the BBC told us April, from Glenn.
I don't think I ever said the Great Intelligence wouldn't return. But
no, you did, because I said, I think the Great Intelligence is returning. You said, no. And you said, I'm calling it now. The Great Intelligence will not be returning.
I may have said that Richard E. Grant would not be returning.
No, you said Great Intelligence.
No, because we were hoping... No, because I was hoping... You and I were both hopeful that... Gandalf would come back.
Oh, yeah.
No, you did say, but that would be cool, because then they could bring back Gandalf.
Well, yeah.
Yes. No, I called it. I said, I have a feeling you were going...
You called it, yes.
You said, I think it's done.
Perceptive commentary, guys. Although I really, really, really want to talk about Series 7B and how awesome it was and about that finale, I'm going to hold off until I've listened to your reviews of the stories. So far, I'll just say, continue being excellent, and I hope Sean and Glenn had fun at Galley, since I'm just about to reach that set of mini episodes concerning the con. I'll speak to you all again very soon. In fact, I'll probably be sending in another feedback very shortly. I think I'll just finish my lunch first. Wait, what the hell is this thing doing in my... Hey guys, Alex here, long time no feedback. Sorry, I just got a weird sense of deja vu there for a second. P.S. Apologies to Phil for the worm joke plagiarizing.
So he knows that he borrowed it.
He did write in more. He said, P.S. Sorry, I just wanted to add that, are you saying God as Davros nearly killed me? I'm sure that would make for a fascinating edition of the New Testament.
Indeed, Alex, indeed.
It's great hearing from you. I'm glad to hear you're okay.
I know we've read this before.
All right, who's up next?
Up next is Brenda.
Brenda. Where's Brenda? There it is. Brenda writes, if at first you don't succeed, read Alex's email again. Dear Vortex Gang, I thought I'd sent feedback last week, but when I didn't hear it read on the podcast, I went back and checked my email program.
Sorry.
Have we read this one too?
I read this first part and I thought, did we skip Brenda's email? I'm glad Keeper of the Feedback didn't fail.
And found a glitch had prevented it from going through. I think perhaps it was a form of divine intervention because I was really angry last week and was ranting quite a bit. Not at you guys, just at the generic group of fans who continue to be so negative about Doctor Who and seem to be looking for things to criticize. I was on such a high after the season finale. I loved every minute of it, loved how Moffat wrapped up some storylines and introduced new questions about others, was so excited for the potential of the 50th anniversary show. So I made the supreme mistake of going online to read reviews and speculations about what's to come. While I did find lots of people who shared my excitement, I also encountered those naysayers, and I just snapped. I once listened to other podcasts and read various sites that featured reviews, but I have abandoned pretty much all of them except for this podcast, because I got tired of having people pee in my cornflakes.
That isn't very nice of them.
They would find fault with the tiniest details, question what they felt were plot holes, and bemoan the direction the show is going in. Really, if you can buy the idea of a time traveler with two hearts who regenerates into different appearances and is hundreds of years old, what plot holes are so big you can't just accept them? I have no issues with people liking or not liking various episodes. God knows there are some I like less than others. But I do love the overall direction of the show, and it still brings me much happiness. The comments by Moffat that ran during commercial breaks of the finale brought up again his belief that Doctor Who should be made and watched by people who love it. Quote, because if you don't love it, you'd never put up with it. End quote. I am of the opinion that those insistent critics who don't actually love Doctor Who, they love the show they have built up in their minds, and when the real show doesn't match their imagined one, they are angry. They search out spoilers, develop their own theories about what's going to happen, sometimes react to those theories before the show is even aired, and then tear up the real show because it wasn't the way they imagined it would be.
A lot of people did that with Book 7 of the Harry Potter series. A lot of people did that.
I believe it.
Star Wars prequels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Star Trek. It's this little show on Doctor Who. I don't know if you heard of it. And I do think there may be a bit of classic Who snobbery going on, because the show now is different than it was in its first 30 years or so. The new approach is automatically considered not as good. But TV in general is different than it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, so shouldn't Doctor Who be different as well? As Chrissy said a few weeks ago, if they're so unhappy with the show as it currently is, then they should just stop watching it and leave the rest of us to our enjoyment. And that's a very true statement. This is something we covered in my Intro to Mass Media class. Is they talked about, you go back to something in the 80s, and what was the juggernaut TV show of the 80s? Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, week after week after week, Dallas was it just reigned supreme, and it was this number one thing. And the pacing of that show, because it was a soap opera, it would be unwatchable today. It would be boring.
Yeah,
You could not get into that show. But then compare it with something like Lost, and the way the plots are interconnected and the things that are going on. There's so much more television on right now in your television, as long as it's not a reality game show. Just the way the shows are being written and conceived and put together, it's so vastly different. And Doctor Who obviously is no exception. We've talked about the pacing and the everything. So yeah, I 100% agree with you there, Brenda. Sorry, I digress. So that's a somewhat toned-down version of my rant, and I reiterate that it doesn't apply to our Vortex community here, except for Glenn.
She didn't.
She didn't say that. I threw that in. I am so thankful that you guys and all the listeners seem to be so open-minded and tolerant of differing opinions. I just needed to get it out of my system after the past few weeks of non-stop moaning from the hordes of naysayers. Just call this my bagpipe rant. As I mentioned earlier, I loved everything about the finale from start to finish. I was so glad to have watched the classic episodes that I have so that I could better appreciate the past Doctor scenes and other references. The conference call with the companion team gave me an aha moment in the idea that time travel has always been possible in dreams. And I loved Strax referring to Madame Vastra as having, quote, gone a darker green when she got flustered trying to introduce Clara to River.
That was cute. I like that.
My heart broke at the Doctor's touching tears at the mention of Trenzalore. Indeed, Matt Smith's acting was in top form for the whole episode.
Agreed.
As one who has loved every aspect of River's story since the beginning, I loved her beautiful send-off. And I wouldn't be upset if we see her again to answer what spoilers tie her to Clara. In response to those who found the children non-essential to the story, I just think of them as a way to connect with the younger viewers by giving them something to identify with. I know that Glenn had a problem with the cliffhanger aspect of the show, but I viewed it as part one of a two-parter that will conclude in November. so it was totally satisfying for me. I pre-ordered Season 7B DVD from Barnes & Noble and not Amazon, damn it, so no early delivery for me.
She said, darn it. Don't put words
darn
in
it.
her mouth.
No, I'm sorry. You're correct, Brenda. I apologize. I was down at the bottom of my screen, and it looked like the R and the
It doesn't
N had
say
blended
damn there
together.
either.
Well, but it would be damn like a D-A-M, and I thought she
get you.
misspelled it, which I thought was weird in and of itself, because she's smarter than I am. She says, darn it, pardon. So no early delivery for me. It has shipped already, so I look forward to the extras that might be on it. I have no idea what Moffat has in store for us in November with the John Hurt Doctor. I trust him enough to give us a great ride, and I'm so happy that it will be a movie-length episode. Meanwhile, I will have fun speculating about some unanswered questions. Is the quote-unquote fall of the 11th referring to him literally falling from the sky to Trenzalore? Were the
I hadn't thought of that.
I hadn't either, actually.
Yeah,
That's a
hadn't
good
thought
one.
of that.
Were the Silents trying to keep the Doctor from Trenzalore in order to prevent the domino effect that resulted from interfering with his timeline? And will we see them again? Is there a significance to the fact that Doctors 1 through 7 got so much more coverage than 8 through 10?
Oh, did you guys see my tweet?
Yeah.
On second view, when 2 runs past Clara, another man passes in front of her in the Wyatt Earp outfit.
Oh, so
It's totally 8.
totally
I watched it again. I was like, oh, okay, that's supposed to be 8. Yeah.
cool.
Still greatly underrepresented.
Well, keep in mind that
The history of the show, he's greatly.
Well, keep in mind that show is still tied up in rights disputes because of Universal owning a good chunk of that. And so you couldn't have used any clips from that show. You couldn't have used any clips from the movie. So that's all we
but
have.
They didn't have a clip of 6. It was a shot of if we believe
well,
him walking
and that's
past.
that's what they did with this one. And I think that's a balance issue as well.
They could have gave him a wig and had him come in and shoot a scene
Well,
real quick.
they might. That might have cost them a little bit, but yeah. But no, what I'm saying though is that causes balance, and we can say that was 8 that walked by. So, and 10 didn't get coverage because
He was
we're going to
there.
get a lot. Well, no, I mean
Yeah,
as much coverage because we're going to get a lot.
Because he's coming back.
Yeah.
Is there significance to the fact that Doctors 1 through 7 got so much more coverage than 8 through 10? Could it be indicative of what we will learn in November? Indicative. Who was the prisoner
Indicative?
who knew about the Doctor, and why would he know about Trenzalore? We actually found the answer to that one tonight. Clarence and the Whispermen, which apparently is a prequel.
Yes. And if you haven't seen it, it's very enjoyable.
And
It's on
Glenn will
YouTube.
post the link on our show notes. Won't you, Glenn? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Although I forgot a couple things last week. Nobody called me out on it.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
But
You
were-
didn't even know.
I did.
You didn't know.
I did.
What do you miss?
Everything.
Well, what I miss?
All the stuff that you said you were going to put on there and didn't. There was only one thing.
What
that you
did I
listed.
miss?
I don't know.
Yeah, see? That's why you didn't call me out. You didn't know it until I just brought it up.
No, I noticed it wasn't there, but I couldn't remember what it was. But you know what? I don't have a $400 note-taking system at the table with me, so
I wish this only cost $400.
drink your coffee.
Make it
Thank you.
decaf.
You're welcome. See, how come I have to fill that out every time? How come I have to finish that off every time?
I don't drink coffee. I have no idea what you're talking about. Is there significance to the
Are
similarity?
you getting it?
I'm getting
okay,
it.
thank you.
The coffee.
I didn't
Weren't
get
you
it.
finishing
I didn't get it until this time. I didn't hear you say it
all
last
right,
time.
all right.
Is there significance?
You were
to-
busy looking up the origins of
Yeah.
coffee.
No, he was looking up whether or not it's decaffeinated. May I continue now?
Wouldn't that be the origins of coffee?
No, I was looking up the origins of decaffeinated coffee.
But it's one of the origins of coffee. It's just a generic
a
term.
form
It's
of
not
coffee.
the origin of coffee.
No, because you've
It's
already
the
established.
origins of coffee.
Glenn, you have already established that coffee was around a long time before it was decaffeinated. So if you look up the origins of decaffeination, you're not looking up the origins of coffee.
No, not the origins
That's like
of
looking up the
decaffeination.
origin of
The
television
origins of
versus the origins of Doctor Who.
decaffeinating
They're not the
coffee.
same.
So the same. All right, keep going.
To the moon, Alice.
Bang, zoom. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Is there significance to the similarity of
Sorry,
one of
Brandon.
Clara's-
Really,
We have totally
really what I
destroyed your
should
thought
have said was
process here.
bitter.
Bitter.
Yeah, that's what I should have said.
Thank you.
You still not getting it?
I don't drink coffee.
It doesn't happen. Keep going.
Is there significance to the similarity of one of Clara's young selves from past days to the girl on the cover of the book Summer Falls? Both had the same hairstyle with braids pinned to the top of their head. I kind of thought the girl in Summer Falls was Amy, but...
No, Amy wrote it.
Yeah.
I
course,
thought it
we've
The
all
girl was a
inspired
redhead,
others.
though. She was a brunette. She was a brunette.
I thought she was more blonde.
No, she was brunette.
I was totally focused
Okay,
on the
sure.
fact that John and Sherlock were on the cover.
It's hilarious that people think that.
It's totally John and Sherlock as kids. Anyway, were the torches in the catacombs actually Dalek eye stalks? Yes. I enjoyed hearing what all of you had to say about this episode, and I look forward to revisiting the Fifth Doctor on Sunday night, even though it's followed once more by an episode that I've already seen. I'll send you a copy of this one as well if you need it. I'll close with a humorous thing that happened last week at church. For those who don't observe the liturgical. Brenda, you're falling down the job. You used to include the phonetic spelling of these things so that I wouldn't trip over them.
Liturgical.
Liturgical?
Yes.
Horrible word. The liturgical calendar last Sunday was the Feast of the Pentecost, called Whit Sunday in many parts of the world. A day when we commemorate the Holy Spirit descending on the apostles, giving them the ability to speak in all languages. In one of the scripture lessons, the many foreigners in Rome asked, "How is it that each of us hears these people speaking in our own language?" I leaned forward to a couple of my Whovian friends in the front row of the choir and whispered, "It's the TARDIS translation matrix." And we spent the next 5 minutes trying not to laugh out loud. Sometimes you just have to have fun, even in church. Have a great week, Brenda in Atlanta.
Can I go back and revisit one little thing? Just make sure here.
While you look that up,
Hurry,
I'm going to
Ryan.
tell a fun story.
Go ahead.
We have a playlist at work. They use Rhapsody, and each of us gets to put in, songs that we would like to listen to, and then they throw all of our individual playlists in for whoever's working that day. So it's not unusual to have, some great 70s rock song from me immediately followed by some absolute piece of junk from
I've wondered
something
why
new
the
from
music
somebody
is
else.
so random.
Yeah, it's very random. But one of the things that's in my playlist is not Name of the Doctor.
I Am the Doctor.
I Am the Doctor.
Nice.
So I'm sitting there at work, and I'm filing comic books, of all things, putting tape on them, and very mundane, boring. That's okay, And dun dun
You're
dun
vintage
dun
stock.
dun
Yeah, I
dun
keep
dun
reading
dun 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 comes on the speakers, and I'm happy now, and I'm filing comic books like this, and I hear somebody walking through the aisles in the store going, dun 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 dun, as the guy's walking along the aisle. He's just he's like headbanging to Doctor Who. It was awesome. So,
You didn't talk to him?
no. I was working. I had comics to file.
Such an ambassador, isn't he?
I've brought more people to this table than you have, mister.
One of the things, and I'm not trying to be disputative here, but I've seen a lot of people that have done this, and I think we touched on it a little bit last week, and even on second viewing, I just don't see that there's any more to this. But she says, and I wouldn't be upset to see her again to answer, she's referring to River. To answer what spoilers tie her to Clara. I think people are reading way too much into that. This is just my opinion, but the only tie that she had to Clara was the fact that once they were linked at the conference call, she stayed linked knowing that Clara was the current companion, and that would be the only way that she could be where she needed to be at Trenzalore when things were necessary. And people are using this comment that she makes that if Clara's dead, or if she's not, I can't remember exactly what it is, but why
Scattered through
why
time
am
or
I
whatever.
why am I still here?
Right.
And I think the point is that the Doctor feels that she's lost, that she's gone. And River's reassuring him that if I'm still here, she's not gone because we are linked.
She can be found.
Right, exactly.
That's how I took it.
She's only linked by the fact that she's just left this link open. And she makes a comment, spoilers, and that's what's throwing everybody off, is I think a lot of people think that she was making that comment because there's more to that. I really think that she just makes that because that's her trademark, that she always says spoilers.
She hadn't said it yet in
She
the
hadn't
episode.
said it yet, and it was almost one of those. There's going to be an instant gratification to this spoiler. So she's saying she was giving away what we were about to find out, and I
Right.
simply think that's all that there is. And I think that maybe I'm more cautious now about this type of thing because we went for so long going, what caused the TARDIS to explode? Is this the silence that will fall? We kept reading so much into things for such a long time, and then that may be the way I am and being guarded by it. But I really, truly think that there is no other link to her and Clara other than the fact that she left a link open because that was her connection to the Doctor, because the Doctor wasn't in the conference call, so she couldn't link herself to him, and she knew that Clara would be there, and that was the only reason for that link at that time, and that's done.
And really, Clara is still there. She's just in that whatever veiny thing was.
Whatever that veiny thing was. It's the Doctor's timeline.
Well, but he goes into the Doctor's timeline to the base or whatever and finds her there. So she's still essentially at the same location, yes. Just her essence is distributed throughout his timeline.
I get the impression that's kind of the main Clara and the rest of her is splintered throughout. Yeah. But... yeah, so I hope nobody gets their hopes up that we're going to discover more about, and I could be wrong. Moffat might go that direction, but I hope nobody gets their hopes up that there's going to be an answer to a link between the two. Because, and Brenda's not the only one that has brought this up. I've seen this online a lot this week. People are speculating that there's a link between River and Clara, and I just simply think it was just, this is it. This is what it was.
I think we've explored the link. That's pretty much it.
That was done.
I could be wrong. Great intelligence is coming back.
That one I knew was going to happen.
Up next is Chrissy.
Chrissy writes, her subject line is Death by Pointless Facts.
Too late.
Dear Vortex Boys, I visited my parents this weekend and they have BBC America. So I finally got to sit down and watch the Fourth Doctor Revisited. There was a whole marathon of revisited specials on Sunday. After seeing the other specials, I wondered how they'd get so much covered in the Fourth Doctor special, since there is so much to talk about. I noticed they didn't even mention Romana, which is a shame. Wouldn't be that hard to explain her character. She's a Time Lord just like the Doctor, and she regenerated. Simple. But the discussions of Sarah Jane, Leela, and K9 were really nice. I like that David Tennant talked about how the Doctor always called her Sarah, while everyone else called her Sarah Jane. And I didn't know that John Leeson was on set during rehearsals playing as K9 before they actually filmed the episodes. So that was a cool story to hear. I love that they talked about the origin of the scarf and the Fourth Doctor's personality, that he's just a big kid that they gave the keys to the TARDIS to. Honestly, I've never seen Tom Baker in an interview, and I've always thought he was a standoffish kind of guy and full of himself, but in this special, he seems much more personable and likable. I know that shouldn't have anything to do with the Doctor, but it's hard to separate the two in my mind. Sorry.
He's back on his meds.
Well, so let's break there and talk about this, because Tom Baker has gone through this weird evolution of being the guy that, was, even when he left the show, he still was a ambassador for Doctor Who. He really was still linked to the series in such a way that the fans would come up to him. He was I think he's always been very generous with the fans, especially the kids. But he went through this weird phase, and it was right around the time that the Fifth Doctor, the Five Doctors came out. He went through this phase where he started just going off the wall. I mean, he would just be, and I think part of this was alcoholism as well. I'm maybe speaking out of turn there, but he would be in these interviews and he would just say these outlandish things, and then he would suddenly start to get real full of himself, and he went through this real egomaniac phase, and that kind of subdued for a while, but then it kind of resurfaced again in the late 90s, and when they were doing interviews and talking about Doctor Who, and I think it was right around Big Finish, and he was too full of himself to come back to Big Finish, and I think a lot of this is also fueled by rumors because he has been disconnected from Doctor Who for so long. But Tom Baker, I've at least noticed over the last 4 or 5 years, maybe even 3 or 4 years, especially since he's finally come to Big Finish, has really kind of come down to this level where it's, I don't know what it is about him, that he's more appreciative, he's more gracious in his interviews. He's not as off the wall as a lot of things that I heard and saw in the 1990s and early 2000s. And I think he's really embraced Doctor Who again to the level that he left it. And so I think that's why when he comes across now in interviews, he's not the standoffish guy that you expect. And again, I think that this persona has probably gone above him of what actually was happening. But I have seen interviews with him on DVDs. I've seen interviews with him in news programs. I've heard commentaries that he's on for DVDs in the early days when they started coming out on DVD, where he really he has these off the wall things to say. And there was a time where he couldn't remember things that had happened in Doctor Who. And again, I think that there was an alcoholism episode in there, issue in there that kind of clouded some of his background.
In many ways, it's almost very similar to Shatner.
Yeah,
That's
excellent.
Once he got away from it, he was like, "I'm so done with this show," and didn't really understand why the fans had this gargantuan obsession with it, and not quite to the point of angry lashing out, but right on the cusp of it. And that now he's kind of grown to understand and appreciate and love it, and is back in the fold, so to speak. Which is why I know that this is a sore spot for you, but I still hold out hope for Eccleston, that he's just going through that same kind of
I could
distancing
totally see
himself
that.
from it, and that 20 years from now he'll go.
Yeah, that's the problem. I don't want to wait
dumb.
20 years.
No, I don't either.
I'm
Nobody
just
wants to wait.
impatient.
Yeah, I'm impatient.
This is how time happens, really slowly. in the
Yeah,
right
so
order.
we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I was so ecstatic to see Tom in this.
I
doing
was
this.
worried
This was
initially they weren't
fantastic.
going to cover with him.
That they weren't. Well, what?
They didn't, I
That he wasn't going to be in it?
There's a big stretch
Oh,
right
yeah,
at the beginning
yeah.
of the special where he's not in it. And I
Well,
kinda thought,
it's a lot of a setup. I think. Yeah. to
Well,
that.
I mean, none of the other doctors have been in the years 3. They're all dead.
Well, that was one of the funny things about it.
I
Is
wondered if we
I
were going
thought,
there.
oh wow, we actually got a doctor this time, and then I thought, oh, we couldn't have got a doctor in the past ones.
I think
now
it would
I'm
be.
sad
we're
again.
can I quickly, and then we'll go.
I
on,
was just
'cause
going to
we're
say, I think it would be a great disservice for the specials if they didn't have the doctors that are alive
You're
in the
absolutely
special.
right.
I agree.
You're
Now,
absolutely right.
Eccleston may be a difficulty. He might not be in his, but everybody else will, I think. Continue.
All right. 4 is still my absolute. Oh, okay. Here we go. 4 is still isn't my absolute favorite, but the special went a long way towards bringing him up to my estimation. Of course, since I was watching a marathon of Doctors revisited on BBC America, the 4th Doctor special was immediately followed by the 5th Doctor and Earthshock, and I got caught up in all that. So my improved opinion of the 4th Doctor might not have stuck as well as you three probably hoped. Babelsphere. I really liked this one. The premise is creepy as you know what, and I'm actually curious how it will work on TV. Personally, I'm surprised Stephen Moffat hasn't written it, Death by Idle Gossip and Trivia. This story is more from Romana's point of view, and I wondered how we'd see the 4th Doctor getting that mysterious message from the 11th Doctor. But I did like that Romana was included in the message, so it's not like it's something the Doctor has to keep hidden from his companions. Also, the Doctor's number one foe is the Crumblies.
Chumblies.
Chumblies. That was hilarious. So far, this one's my favorite of the Destiny of the Doctor stories, though I haven't listened to the 5th Doctor story yet, so that may change. That's it from me. I hope everyone's feeling better and that you all had a good Memorial Day weekend and that you all did something fun. Chrissy.
Thank you, Chrissy.
We are all feeling better. Moving right along, up next is Holly. She writes, 4th Doctor Babelsphere. Hey guys, this was a great audio story. It reminded me quite a bit of some of the later Tom Baker stories. Lala did a great job narrating the story, and she got 4's annotations down as well. Loved the scene where the Doctor and Romana were both bickering about who was supposed to have their sonic screwdrivers with them, and both of them thinking the other would have theirs while they recharged their own sonic. There was quite a few interesting twists and turns in this story that I didn't see coming. The idea of having a chip in your head and being connected to the social network 24/7 was a little frightening. The ending with the TMI line had me giggling. For the retrospective that BBC America ran, it was pretty good, but I was rather disappointed that they skipped over Romana entirely. I'm still scratching my head why over that one. For the Doctor who's had the longest run, you think they could have extended the retrospective just a little longer. I'll wrap this up here. I'm sure there's lots of feedback with the 4th Doctor waiting in the wings. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly.
And finally,
Michelle.
Michelle writes, Destiny of the Doctor. Hey guys, I listened to Battlesphere about a month ago, but I remember thinking it confirmed a pattern I was noticing in the series. That pattern is that in each case, once the future Doctor contacts his past self, the characters, usually the Doctor, does something they might not have otherwise done that saves the day, and, in the case of 2, 3, and 4, perceives something that would have preserves something that would have otherwise been destroyed. My theory for the series is that the future Doctor is fighting the enemy mentioned in the first story, and needs the things that are being preserved in the other stories, and ensuring that happens by contacting his past selves so that it will. Michelle. P.S. I got accepted into the Media Foundations program at my local community college, and I'm taking a dramatic script writing course online this summer with the hopes of someday writing for television.
oh,
Congratulations,
Michelle.
And we'll see you in the movies.
That's not Highsport College, is it? I was about to correct you and say, no, that's community collage. Isn't it?
Had to point that out. Didn't you?
Sorry, Michelle, but I had to correct him on preserve, and I really almost jumped in and said, no, that's a community collage. And I wasn't until it went on and said dramatic script writing. Oh, that is college.
It does look like collage, doesn't it? It's
College is C-O-L-L-E-G-E, right? College.
No, it's college.
It's C-O-L-L-A-G-E?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I've been spelling it wrong for a really long time.
I guess I have too.
I don't know. I'm not taking
Collage?
English this semester. Taking
think it's
math.
C-O-L.
How do you spell it in French?
Collage.
Maybe she was spelling it in French.
In French, it's U-N-I-V-E-R-S-I-T-Y. Oh, wait, that's in English.
It's La Université.
All right. Very good, Michelle. Sorry. Point out your spelling errors.
Good luck with the writing.
Yeah.
Let me know how it
That's
goes,
awesome.
and I will
Writing for
beat
TV.
Glenn about the head and shoulders with one of your scripts.
Writing for TV. I write for TV. It's not as illustrious as you would think.
You feed the dragon.
What we do is not as illustrious as you
No,
think.
that's true. All right.
Don't
well,
get in TV news.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Truncated information. That's why I'm convinced I can write good stuff on Twitter. All right. Let's do Battlesphere.
Battlesphere.
Dun, dun, dun!
Oh, I was going to wait for that, and then I was going to ask
Oh,
you
you were
if I
excited?
could do that.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
that's ruined now. I
no,
just
go
skipped
ahead.
the synopsis.
Yeah. We have synopses for these, you know.
I didn't know that. Go ahead.
We've always had it.
Even though we talked about it, you asked if you had two of them. I said just pick the shorter. You said even if it's not better. We went through this whole discussion
although
that you and I had.
it turns
that
out the
apparently
shorter-
Sean was not here for.
The shorter is just one of the paragraphs from the actual full.
Oh,
So should I just read the full?
yeah.
Since he ruined the
Yeah,
dun dun dun
Might as
anyways.
well. You guys are ruining all my night.
The violent volcanic world of Hephaestus is home to a colony of composers, painters, authors, and poets, all striving to create the greatest works of art the universe has ever seen. But in pursuit of their goal, artist collaboration has been taken a stage too far. That's where the initial dun 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 would start. When the Doctor and Romana arrive, they discover the colonists have neglected their well-being and once beautiful habitat, which has now succumbed to decay, and they are enslaved to the Babel network, which occupies their every waking moment. Every thought, however trivial or insignificant, is shared with everyone else, and privacy is now a crime. The colonists are being killed, and the Doctor and Romana begin to suspect that a malevolent intelligence is at work. With time running out, the two travelers race to discover the truth before they are absorbed into the endless trivia of the Battlesphere.
Go for it, Glenn.
Oh, is that it? Sorry, I was just nodding off there for a minute. Dun dun dun! I like this, man. This is the best one of the series
This
so
has been
far.
the best one. Of
This
the
one is
series.
I don't know,
really
it's-
good.
Right up there with 2. I really like 2.
No, you know, I loved 2. I loved 2. I thought 2 was great. This one just went mountains above anything we've had so far in this Destiny of the Doctor series. I mean, it's really. And now I'm a little biased because this was, first of all, my Doctor, and second of all, Romana, which I love and absolutely love in this, and I think she's got intonations down of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And number 3, this was so in the style of Douglas Adams. Oh my gosh, well, this was so in the style of Douglas Adams.
It's a story Douglas Adams would have written
absolutely.
if he were around today at the peak of social media.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's totally Douglas Adams. I didn't think of that until you just now mentioned it.
Yeah, it's oh my gosh, it is. I mean, and Lala, she's such a good storyteller. My gosh, she reads this so well. There's so many good things about this. I love the premise, even though I think there are a lot of tropes in this. Don't get me wrong. I think this is borrowing a lot of different tropes. We've got a megalomaniac computer, which obviously we've seen before.
Which is nice that they reference the fact that we've taken down tons of computers. Exactly. This won't be a problem.
That's what's Douglas Adams about it, is the fact that they play this off as we've done this before. Yeah. The reference about at least it's the natives aren't the natives haven't regressed and are worshiping the computer at this point. I mean, there's so many good things about this, and they're all escaping me right now. But the Twitter, the Twitter and Facebook social media aspect of this is so cool because it's so heavy-handed, but it's done in such a way that you don't feel like you're getting slapped across the face for being, an online socialite.
Oh, yeah.
But you see the parallels, and you see somebody taking that and just expounding on it and making it this grand thing that...
Considering how some people post currently, it's not that far out.
It is a reflection,
it's a total
of what
reflection.
A lot of people do on social media.
Was it Chrissy or Holly who mentioned that what they did best was put this in Romana's perspective?
I think it was Holly. I think it was Holly.
Absolutely right. That was the best. Knowing that we have a Doctor we could have had voice this, that's the smartest way to handle it. Of the Doctor's only in about 50% of the story.
Oh, a little more than that, but yes,
he's in there, but he does drop out.
There's a big chunk where he's not even there.
Well, when she meets the Resistance,
I mean,
which is another trope, by the way. I just absolutely love the fact that it's those old ladies, and that they were the first ones that went on the.
She did such a good job doing their voices.
Oh, yeah.
They all sounded differently. Very believable. But the fact that it's all from Romana's perspective is a great way to tell the story, and I hope they continue with that trend, because I'm sure they're not going to have Peter Davison voice the next one.
I don't think you'll see any Doctor.
They can't. They can't. And the reason being is because we've already set forth this style of telling it, having the companion be the one reading it, the companion of the week. They can't do that with the rest of they can't bring anybody else, in my opinion.
And they were able to get away with it a bit more earlier on, I think, since it's well known that those Doctors are not going to be able to, even the realm of possibility of doing this. So I hope that this was just the beginning of the trend of shifting the focus away and more from the companion's perspective, more like a companion chronicle would be.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is maybe feedback that they've gotten. Surely they have this whole thing already plotted out and written and arced before they released even the first one. And so they probably couldn't adjust too much midstream. But I wonder how much of it was after the first one came out and they got some initial feedback. Maybe they started tinkering with the formula just a little bit to kind of work on what worked. And
even as they were recording it, they might have realized, oh wait, this works better than this. Yeah. Maybe we should do this. I mean, it's easy to adjust via recording.
Yeah. But, back to the good points of this. The guy that they brought in, that's the third, the second guy in this, that, they always bring in one other actor to be other voice. Aurelius, the guy that did Aurelius, I really enjoyed him. And when he switches from Aurelius to the
Babel Network.
what the guys what is the guy's name? There's actually got
the
a name.
robots?
No, the being that's in here, that's in the Babelsphere. He's got a name, like the prognosticator or something like that. What is his name? That's totally wrong. They call him something. But when he switches between the two characters, there's this real difference.
Yeah.
And even a difference in the tone of his voice, and even maybe like the level of his voice. And the guy does great on both sides of that. And this is the best secondary actor that I've heard in any of these as well. So that lent to the enjoyment of this story. God, Lala Ward, she could read a phone book to me, and I would thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
She's just wonderful, and this makes me want to seek out. We've obviously heard Lala play Romana in some of the Eighth Doctor audios,
yes.
but I would love to go find some of the companion stories that maybe she's done, where it's more of a reading of Gallifrey. Well, but Gallifrey is
That's true. It's
is
more
also
an
an audio drama.
This is-
But that I want.
Prolocutor.
What was it?
Prolocutor?
Prolocutor.
Yeah, I would not have remembered that.
Prolocutor. That didn't sound right, but
That's
it was like they're saying prolocator or something. Anyway, the prolocular. When he switches between, but I'm going to go find some companion chronicles where she's reading more of this stuff because I thoroughly enjoy listening to her read. Sorry, Richard Dawkins, I want to steal your wife.
Yes. This is...
so much good about this.
I agree with you, Keith, that this is... The second Doctor story is so awesome, but
part
really
of what
so
makes
much of
the
that.
second Doctor story so awesome is his performance.
It's Fraser.
It's Fraser Hines' performance.
Fraser
It's-
Hines being able to pull it off and make us believe that the second Doctor is there reciting these things.
It's not based on story merits, I think.
Now, when you factor in story, Battlesphere just shoots, just
I would
head
agree.
and shoulders above everything else that we've had so far. And I would be honest, I was a little leery going into this one after a fairly disappointing third outing, especially my Doctor. That this is what are they going to do with that? What if I don't like it? And they very much believe. Now, I was pleased from the get-go because it's written by Jonathan Morris. And I've become a big fan of Jonathan Morris through his work. He's done many of the Eighth Doctor adventures that I personally really enjoyed, which you guys haven't got to yet. He was also responsible for Blood Tide, the one where the Silurians came back.
With Charles Baldwin.
That was a great story.
That
That was a
everybody
good story.
liked. So, I mean, he's got that. He also... this is a bit of...
and he wrote Touched by an Angel.
You didn't do it right.
Touched by an Angel.
There you
There
go.
you he also... his professional Doctor Who fiction is notable because he was commissioned to write a novel after only his first attempt on the BBC's open submission policy.
Oh, wow.
So he's been, come on in.
Wow.
So
That's pretty cool.
one other thing, and you mentioned this, the City of Death DVD release has a documentary on it called Paris in Springtime, which is an homage to Douglas Adams and his work on Doctor Who, which Jonathan Morris wrote the narration for.
Oh.
So there's...
Well, there you go.
He's very, very well versed with that.
So
Lincoln.
he and who wrote Shot at the
Gareth.
Gareth
Gareth
Roberts.
both are able to channel
Yeah.
Douglas Adams, I think.
So that excited me from the get-go. But just as this thing unfolded, and
Which Douglas Adams was once very good friends with Stephen Fry. Thought I had to get Stephen Fry in again this week. Sorry.
and adding Stephen
I've got a man crush on Stephen
It's a
Fry.
bit of Fry and Laurie. In this case, Fry and Adams.
Oh, I finished Stephen Fry's second autobiography, by the way.
I was a little
Another thing
worried.
I did this
You mentioned the tropes and of course this is you can't get a bigger Doctor Who trope than hey, we've landed. Oh, look, a dead body.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me going again, but then I was just so carried away in the story, and the idea of this Twitter, Facebook entity kind of taking over. And as I was cooking, which I've discovered is my new favorite thing to do with audio.
Oh, yeah, that would
I
work well,
like
too.
to stand in the kitchen and have it running and putter around and cook things. And my phone was over there going zzz, 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 as I was constantly getting Facebook and Twitter updates, and I could nothing. I had to stop and laugh at this. I'm listening to this story,
Hitting home.
and it's like, get away! I don't want to connect with you at the moment. Fear for my brain. And when it was all said and done and over with, I actually did. I went and turned my computer off for a little while. 'Cause it was like, but everything about this, from front to back, top to bottom, was just marvelous. Lala Ward was fantastic, and I think probably having been married to Tom once upon a time maybe gave her a little
that probably did help
additional insight into how he would, play off some of these events that were transpiring. The random lists of boring facts at the end, which I don't know. They almost spent more time arguing about whether or not it was a boring fact than whether or not it should be presented as a boring fact.
Well, I think that the boring facts aspect of this was probably the most fun.
Yeah,
because you get a lot of the name drops. You get the the fairy
Morbius.
tales. The fairy tales were really cool because we really went across the spectrum of television and Big Finish. And
Well, I remember specifically Zagreus.
yeah, I wrote
Yes.
them down. What did I do?
Characters she knows from nursery rhymes: Rassilon, Zagreus, Slavian, Shakri, and Caphraius. Yeah, that's 5. So that's one audio, one TV story that didn't get written or that didn't air, and then the rest TV.
yeah.
Which I didn't realize until looking at this list. Some of those: Shakri, Power of 3, Caphraius, Vincent and the Doctor. I didn't connect that when I was listening to it.
I didn't either actually until you said that.
I probably was squealing too much after Zagreus. That
Zagreus. Didn't hear the rest of it. That's cool. What were the top 5 villains? Well, the Chumbleys of
The Ice
Ice
Warriors, Ood, which villains, Ice Warriors, Ood, Mandrills, Bandrils, and the Chumbleys.
Mandrills.
And I love it. Was it the 11th Doctor that makes the joke? Ice Warriors are cool. Get
Yeah.
it? It was a pun. Ice Warriors are cool. It was so, great writing.
It's the little things that please you.
Gallifreyan presidents: Morbius, Slan, Pandak 2, Pandak 3. Oh, there they are. Yeah, and then the Gallifreyan nursery rhymes. Yeah,
It was such an enjoyable romp.
yeah. Just the callbacks to the just from the beginning the megalomaniac computers that are just in total control, and they just, like Keith said, they just kind of like fluff it off like, yeah, okay, well, here's another one. It's just it's so wonderful.
and nice face of evil reference that one of our feedbackers also mentioned.
Right.
I loved the okay, we're going to go break into the computer center with this band of intrepid old ladies with their knitting needles and their ray guns.
The idea of these old ladies as resistance fighters.
It's the height of absurdity, and it was so totally Doctor Who. You can't get any more Doctor Who than that. But it called to mind all of those great moments where we lead the resistance fighters into the computer center, and whether it's Genesis of the Daleks or the Sunmakers, where we've got this band of people holding the room, and we're going to go in and, okay, set up the defensive barricade. Where's K9 when you need him?
Yeah.
I'm ready. Bring it on.
Which K9 is sort of missed in this one, because this would have been about the era that he was still with the Doctor and Romana, but clearly they had to leave him on the TARDIS for a reason.
It would have been nice to have a reference of why they left him.
Yeah.
He had to stay and charge up the Sonics.
Well,
I mean, obviously they plug him into K9.
it could be. This could be post Leisure Hive, and they're still repairing him. Because it wasn't until Horns of Nymon that we discover that Romana has a Sonic. The next actual proper story is Leisure
Oh,
Hive.
it was Horns, yeah. You're right.
Would be Leisure Hive, where
Yeah.
he goes into the ocean. So maybe he's that's how I just
do-
retconned it.
I do like that exchange over the...
Or even before Leisure Hive.
Speaking of the Sonics, I do like that exchange over they both expected each other to have their Sonic screwdrivers, but they both left them on the charger. That was good.
And the idea that the sonic screwdriver needs to charge.
Which,
I never thought of
quite
that.
honestly, justifies so much now.
Oh, in Classic Who?
Yeah.
Well, where's the Sonic?
Just in general. Just that Matt Smith must come home and immediately throw it on the charger.
He throws his keys down, his wallet next to it, and then puts the Sonic on the charger. And it's all right there on the
Yeah.
console.
Well,
yeah.
how many of us do that with our cell phones? That you have to,
absolutely.
just, yes, this
Keys,
is what has
chain,
to happen.
wallet, kun,
It's sitting there
phone on the
charging.
charger. In fact, mine's running down now. There's so many good things to say about this, but I mean, just overall, it's a wonderful story. It's the best story I think so far, and I mean, A plus.
Yeah.
Who'd you say the author was again?
Jonathan Morris.
Yeah, Jonathan Morris. I will seek out more things from Jonathan Morris because he's a splendid writer and he got everything right. And with the help of Lala, I think that this just knocked it out of the park. Should we move on?
Do you have anything else, Sean?
No. Happy.
This is strangely enough. There's not a lot of audios that I think I would go back and listen to again. This one I would so go back and listen to again. Yeah, and not after a long wait either. So, all right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the BBC's retrospective, the Doctors Revisited, Fourth Doctor.
Yes.
I think the elephant in the room here is the fact that Ramon is missing.
They dropped 3 entire years.
They really do.
It's a good thing that we got so much Lala in the audio go to talk about today, because let's talk about Lala in the retrospective.
Insert crickets here.
Well, there was so much important about Romana, I think, that they ignored. I'm sorry. Let's talk about one villain who was in one story instead of this? No.
Who was the villain that was
The Zygons.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, they spent a lot of time on the
They spent like
Zygons.
5 minutes on the
Yeah.
Zygons.
I don't think the Zygons were that much, but there's
Personally, I think is prepping us for the 50th.
yeah.
Well,
I
that's
think
not
that
a
I
thing.
think that
That's
was purposeful. Also, though, the Zygons, I love the story. I love the Zygon story. The Zygons, for some reason, and maybe it's because they've been absent for so long, because we haven't gotten the DVD yet. It's been so many years. I mean, it's been many years since it came out on VHS. There's such this love for the Zygons. I mean, I like the Zygons. I thought it's a clever villain. It's a clever monster. But there's this love for the Zygons, and so it always seems like when the Zygons do come up in any sort of media, there's a lot of attention given to it. But I wonder if that's because we're suffering from the absence of the fact that we haven't got that story in so long.
And so then we'll all get that story and realize, what was the big fuss?
Yeah, well, some people might. Yeah.
Well, that was the
I
interesting.
think we will.
That was the interesting
Well, I
thing
don't-
too. With
I like the Zygons, but I don't understand why we set them so high up and why we're so excited about them.
I think that's just it. With Tom's run being 7 years of Doctor Who, the only returning villain in that time is Davros and the Daleks. That's the only one that he gets a two.
Which we spent good time on that.
Yes, which was very well done. And I think if they wanted to add another quote unquote villain, let's talk about the Time Lords, because that is explored so much throughout his run, especially with Romana.
I got the impression. Yeah. That
Oh, wait.
is there. I get the impression that we'll probably talk a little more about the Time Lords when we get to the Fifth Doctor, because they're going to spend some time on the 20th anniversary special, the 5 Doctors.
And Omega.
Yeah.
Don't forget
Well,
Omega.
In Omega.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, because we kind of visited that before. So I don't know.
I just think that something like Deadly Assassin and other which the other
I don't know.
Invasion of Time, so much of that is
Yeah.
taking place on It's more than we spend more time on Gallifrey than we do with.
I think
Zygons.
so, but I think unless you're in the Who universe,
Sontarans.
yeah,
There are
I
two.
think
There are two
Yeah, that would be
Sontarans
good too,
episodes.
Sontarans.
I
forgot
think
about that.
unless you're invested in the Who universe like us, though, if you're explaining this to the average person, I don't think the average person would watch right away and get the impression that we do that the Time Lords really are bad guys. And so I think that's why
Yeah.
you kind of screw it. We recognize that because we're so invested and we see that underlying current throughout, especially Tom Baker and Peter Davidson's era of the corruption in Gallifrey and you know the evil that's going on there. And so the backstabbing, the politics, and I think if you try to address that in something like this, I think that gets a little muddled and it's not as understandable unless you're in it and recognize it as you watch this series.
I could see that to some extent.
I can forgive them for skipping over that.
I could see that to some extent, but I'm approaching these as I'm trying to ignore all classic Who. And from somebody who's watched all of... It's hard to do, but somebody who's watched all of New Who, from a New Who perspective, because that's really who they're targeting this to. Somebody who's never heard of Doctor Who isn't going to sit down and watch one of these specials. They're going to be introduced...
I don't know. I think that's what they're hoping.
Yeah, I think that's
You think
the
so?
target.
I think they're hoping to get the New Who fans to watch Classic Who.
Yeah,
Those who haven't watched Classic Who that are New Who fans.
Because
there's a big enough...
They're targeting the new Who fans, not non-Who fans.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they're targeting both.
They're trying to target both, but I think they're...
And the New Who
focus.
fans would recognize that Gallifrey, essentially the politics were evil.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that's why I come to
we've
it
been there,
expecting that.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, overall, I don't have much bad to say about this. There's a glaring hole in it with the absence of Romana, but I thought it was nice to hear from Tom Baker. It was nice to hear a generous and it was nice to hear from him that talk about the role that he really kind of made the Fourth Doctor who he was, and that it was just really Tom Baker's character that personified this character.
It was great to hear from John Leeson.
It was.
I love the fact that they got him on it.
I love that they keep having David Tennant, although apparently they didn't record all these at the same time. Because now
he was
he's
in a different
clean-shaven.
outfit.
And he's clean shaven.
Yes. So, first three, next three.
Yeah.
And
We didn't get as much Moffat this time, I didn't feel.
I think they probably Moffat probably took a back seat since they did have Tom.
Yeah.
That he didn't
Yeah.
have to drive that conversation as much.
They touched on Sarah. They touched
which-
Sarah Jane. They touched on Leela.
There were two brilliant bits of that. The first is, and I don't maybe we didn't get any talk about Romana because we did get so much of City of Death. I mean, we spent a lot of clips.
when they talk
City of
about
Death.
It
his
seems weird that we didn't
characteristic.
talk about Romana,
Yeah.
but we're going to include all of
include her in the
this.
thing.
But I think maybe that's where they felt the balance was.
Yeah. So maybe that's why they did that.
Could be.
But when and this is something that I noticed specifically when we went back and reviewed the last Sarah Jane adventures that we did. Was that season 2 or 3? 3, wasn't it?
3. Yeah.
When Sarah keeps correcting everybody, it's Sarah Jane. It's Sarah Jane. It's Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
She's very specific about it. It's Sarah Jane. And I
Because only one person calls her Sarah.
And I thought to myself, the doctor called you Sarah all the time. I remember
I think
that you
that's
were
why.
Sarah.
Don't you suppose that's why?
And then
Yeah.
when David Tennant came out and said that it was always Sarah Jane, but the doctor called her Sarah, and we worked that in the script. I went, oh, clever. Okay, So I mean, that was just one of those. It was a beautiful little window that kind of opened up into that.
I would agree. And they touched on one of your favorite moments, the time where the Fourth Doctor and
Yes.
Sarah Jane really kind of connect when she's crawling through
from
the
Ark in
ducts.
Space.
Yeah, from Ark in Space.
Although they edited out his smile, which is what
Yeah.
makes that whole scene work.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But yeah, there was so much about the special that was very, very well done, and again, it felt a little refreshing, and it felt more like a pick me up after what was essentially kind of a disappointing Third Doctor retrospective. So I was.
Did either of you guys get the kind of impression that Stephen Moffat wasn't that big of a fan of the Fourth Era? Like hearing him talk about the first 3 stories that when he's introducing, he talks a lot about why the story is so awesome. Maybe he just didn't like the story they chose for the Fourth Doctor's era, but he's almost more repeating himself of, this is why Tom Baker's era was important and why it was such a big risk, and then we get this. And then we start it. Did you guys get that impression?
I didn't get that impression, but
now that you point that out, I do kind of get that impression. And I wonder if it could
I don't
be
know if
something
it's
as innocent
because-
as because they had Tom that he set it up and then stepped back, or it could be that
Or Moffat just feels that his era speaks for itself. I don't know.
well, that's kind of the
That could
impression
be.
I got, was it just that the era really kind of speaks for itself.
or maybe
There's
it's-
so much of this. What can I say about it? That won't take 2 hours.
Another thing I think you're coming at is especially with Moffat, who was probably coming of age about the time that was probably growing up in the Tom Baker era, was so many people were at Doctor Who now, and this was like the pinnacle of it, and he was such the popular Doctor that I almost wonder if it's easy for somebody that grew up in that time to kind of maybe take that for granted and maybe not, because it does speak for itself, and so many people already have clearly this is more for American audiences because this is only airing on BBC America, so at this point. And so I wonder if that's forgotten and he holds back a little bit because he almost feels like everybody should know this, kind of thing. And so he holds back a little bit, just subconsciously, not
That could
on
be,
purpose.
yeah.
There's another possibility too, is that again based on the time frame, maybe this was when you talked that you've had your kind of falling off of Who in the later years. Maybe this was when Moffat was kind of
Could be.
drawing away from it, and beginning to notice girls or something, and that he wasn't quite as keen on the show at the time. I don't know. There's any number of things that it could have been. It could be completely innocent. It could be that there's something there. But,
Yeah.
and it was a good special, with the exception of Romana not being there.
Yeah.
I liked the fact
concur
that
with you.
they had everything else, and I very much appreciated, as Chrissy pointed out, the stories of John Leeson actually being on set.
Which I didn't
And,
know that either.
That was on. Was that? It wasn't the Leisure Hive because he wasn't in that one. There was one that we watched just recently. Maybe it's Invisible Enemy. There's a special feature where he talks about not only was he on set, but that he would crawl around on all fours.
There's a clip
in
of
the
him
reversal.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Something
that's
we watched.
when he talks about the reaction shots of giving Tom somebody to bounce off of, that he would literally shuffle around on the floor and do that. I loved the fact that they had they touched on that relationship between Leela and K9 as part of that, because we talked at
The chess match.
infinitum. Even Mel perked up when they were showing that, and mate and somebody moves, and the doctor goes, "What?" And he sits back down, and Mel goes, "Oh, I remember that one." She knew it was coming. She knew he was getting ready to go knock the chess table over. Oops, TARDIS did that. I didn't do that.
Not much more I can say about this other than it was a fine representation. I think, just like you said, having Romana held out of that was
And a very
just
special thank you to Brenda for
Yes.
enabling us to review it.
helping
Sending
us
us
get
a
that.
copy of that.
So absolutely,
Actually sending a DVD copy.
yeah, terrific. Well, let's talk a little bit about our retrospective of the Fourth Doctor's era. This is.
Dun, dun, dun!
It's funny because going into this week, I kept thinking when we first set this up and said, "Okay, we're doing this next week." My first thought was this would be really easy to talk about because this is my Doctor. This is such a vast era, lots to. And as the week went on, I kept thinking all of it. This is one that I wanted to vote everything on this because I can hardly think of a bad story in this era, and I can hardly think of anything that you could point to as a perfect representation of the Fourth Doctor because his era evolved so much. Because
That's the
his
problem.
character evolved so much.
There's so many
There's
eras
too much.
in his era,
Yeah, exactly.
that you have to choose. Okay, here's the best or the most representative of Hinchcliffe's time.
That's just it.
It's-
So
you
because
gotta-
you had not only so many, not
can
only so
point to
many
some bad stories,
showrunners,
though.
but you had so many different companions. You had so many different looks. You had so many different personalities just with Tom Baker's portrayal of the Doctor.
And we discussed off mic we threw out the possibility of, well, maybe we should break it down and do the Hinchcliffe era, or let's do by companion, the Sarah Jane, the Leela, and the Romana years. But we decided, well, we haven't done that with any of the other Doctors, it wouldn't be fair. So let's go ahead and throw it out there as an all-inclusive. But I agree with you guys because it's so much. I mean, if you're going to ask me to pin down what is the most indicated, what is the pinnacle of the Hinchcliffe era? What is the most, of that time frame?
Since
no, because that came after.
Oh, that was right.
That was true. But
it still fits.
But as we know, the first season is Hinchcliffe's era.
And it's
not representative of him because the stories were already commissioned.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed that Horror Fang Rock was already commissioned under his time frame.
Probably not in that sense, but could have.
It could have been.
I think though that
it's the first of the season.
That's just it. Though the Hinchcliffe stuff sort of set, I think, a tone that continued on even after Hinchcliffe was there. So I think that the tone had been established, and so that sort of bled over into that season a bit. And then they clearly start to change into a different tone beyond that as well. So.
Okay, so I'm not going to answer this question because I haven't seen all of his era to know as well as you guys would. Somebody who's watched all of New Who comes to you and says, "I'm interested in Classic Who. I want to start with Tom Baker. Which story should I watch?"
See, it's easy for me to go to my favorites. Because I love things like City of Death. I love things like the Pyramids of Mars is one of my favorites. Genesis of the Daleks is one of my favorites. It's tough though to say, well, go watch this. Although maybe because those are such enjoyable episodes or stories, maybe that's where you do go with the Fourth Doctor's era. Is you don't look for something that
show
maybe
me why
defines
I should
him.
like this Doctor.
Yeah, because I think if you show them something good, they're going to explore the era even more based on that. So maybe that's the way to go with the Fourth Doctor, is to go to some of my favorite episodes.
See, from that perspective, I think Genesis would be a great selection. It is a bit longer. You get the introduction of Davros. You're already familiar with him and the Daleks. You get Sarah Jane. I think that's a great jumping on point for anybody wanting to explore the Fourth Doctor.
I certainly think that you can do that with a new Who viewer.
Yes.
Because of the fact that the Daleks are so readily established, and for the most part they will have already seen Davros. So,
yeah. I mean,
it gives you a couple of added inroads.
If somebody who'd never watched Doctor Who came to me and said, "I want to watch Doctor Who. What are you going to? What should I watch?" I'm sorry. I'm just not going to go to Classic Who to get them hooked. I'm going to go to New Who. So that's why I ask from a New Who perspective.
I see.
The chronological Nazi in me will always go, "Oh yeah, you should start with Robot and go forward." But in that instance, if somebody who is...
As Friday Night Who shows, not everybody likes the robot design.
Blake doesn't count.
If any of our friends that were robot experts...
The important people...
Sorry, the robot's pretty awesome.
The important people, our fans, liked it. But no, I would probably agree. I would probably say Genesis is a good one, or any of the ones that Glenn mentioned. For the same reasons, just because they are, they are at the same time iconic and yet still so enjoyable. But
Deadly Assassin, Robots of Death.
Well, that's just it, though. I mean,
please do not throw hands at me.
But then you've got issues with, like, you can't plop them down in the middle of season 16 because that's key of time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
No. So you have.
That's off limits.
Well, those are all great, or there are some great.
There are some great stories.
For the most part, it's a great season with a few not so great stories. You can't plunk them down in the middle there because you really have to do that season. And I almost feel the same way with the first season of Tom Baker's era. Is that Robot you probably would be the only one that you could really plunk somebody down in. But I think because you've got even just a thread of a story arc going on there, Genesis, you're going to wonder where they came from and where they're going.
Where's the TARDIS?
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I think you could drop them down in Ark in Space. because they land with the TARDIS.
Yeah,
there.
but at Ark in Space, they're...
It'll make them want to continue.
Yeah.
I mean, the only question lingering is who are these companions?
Though,
That's
they arrive, and then where do they go? That type of thing. So I don't know. That's not as difficult as Key of Time season, but I don't know.
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, you're asking. Unfortunately, I hate to say this. I'm such a devout. I don't want to call myself an expert. I'm such an acolyte at the altar of this era that I don't know that I'd be a good person, a good sounding board for that, because I do like things like The Invisible Enemy and
Android Invasion.
And those ones that are, Brain of Morbius and Seeds of Doom, and those ones that maybe aren't quite what a new viewer should be exposed to right away. But I'm going to go, this is the greatest thing ever. You have to watch this. And they're going to go, are you kidding me?
I really do think...
You just hope you have somebody that says, okay, show me another...
This goes to being, because it's one of the top of my list of favorites, I do almost think that City of Death is one that you could drop somebody into, because it's such an engaging story, an entertaining story, and I think it gives a good... Because I think Douglas Adams was able to bring the best of the Doctor out in his story. And so, even if that's the best of the Doctor... it's hard to start somebody off on something, with the bar set so high.
Right.
But on the flip side of that, I think if you bring out the best of the Doctor, that also would cause people to want to, kind of explore more and learn more about
this character is so great.
Exactly.
I think the thing City of Death has also for it is, it out of most others, I think, has the similar humor to New Who. And it has a lot more joking around in it. That line, like the line,
You're right.
I love your butler. He's so violent.
When there's a lot
that sort of thing.
There's a lot of action in it too.
Yeah.
Well, okay, it's a lot of running around Paris, but
Duggan,
running from here, and Duggan. You gotta love Duggan.
And a Mona Lisa reference.
That's another thing about it too, though, is it has sort of that, from the New Who perspective, it has that time kind of wrapping around on itself,
folding
back in itself. And so there's kind of that aspect there too. So New Who viewers who are kind of used to that concepting, if they see a glimpse of that in classic Who, that might also kind of maybe pique an interest as well.
You could also sit somebody down who has seen all of New Who up to Name of the Doctor and say, this is what another option could have been for Clara.
That's right. That's true. Destiny of the Daleks. Season 18 is the only one that I think I would stay away from. Number one, because it winds down the Fourth Doctor's era. We're running close to it, regeneration. I've also, with the exception of Megalus, I've been vocal about the fact that there's not a lot of stories in that season that I really enjoy. Leisure Hive is just kind of meh for me.
Which is weird, because I think...
Full Circle, State of Decay.
Enjoying that one.
You liked it. Glenn and I are both kind of meh on Leisure Hive, but that's always been rated as one of the top.
Yeah,
everybody loves. But we also come down opposite of everybody on Talons.
We all came down on that side of Talons.
Yeah. But I love Megalus, but that's one that you're kind of lukewarm to.
Yeah.
You've never been a fan of that.
It's the one where he turns into a cactus, right?
And I don't think it's very high on a lot of lists either, but I think... I certainly enjoy that one, but then we get into like the Full Circle, State of Decay. We get Adric in there. We get, it just...
Well, with the exception of the two stories at the beginning, it's broken up into two trilogies. Mm-hmm. I mean, so you kind of have to
it's kind of a
those,
type thing,
as as lump chunks. So it's almost a Key to Time as season. And that's one reason why Keith really hasn't been exposed to the Doctor's blue period, or his maroon period.
His maroon period
is more accurate. Leisure Hive, just because we haven't had the...
we could do Megalus.
I'm looking forward to Megalus, actually, because I've heard so much about it. And the fact that he turns into a cactus, it's...
Keith, spoilers. There's a cactus.
Ooh, I've seen the cover of that one.
It's like Tom Baker doing a Robin Williams impersonation.
If I had to pick one, it's City of Death. It's just... I'm going to keep coming back to that.
You're picking that as your introduce a New Who viewer to? Or you're picking that as... This is the...
Both.
Oh, really?
I'm going to go both.
You're gonna
I
go
think it's very because there are so many that
you
are
vote
very.
for that?
I don't think I voted. I don't think I voted this time.
You abstained
Yeah,
courteously.
I abstained courteously. That or maybe a Sarah Jane, and I'm going to go to Pyramids. I know these are like my two favorites in the Tom Baker era, and I just keep going back to them. But I just there's good writing there. There's good exploration of the character. Tom's at his best in City of Death, but then he's at his best with Sarah Jane in Pyramids. Oh, wow.
And there's so much to like about Sarah Jane.
Oh yeah,
in
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
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 There's a reason she comes back and gets her own series.
Which is another thing, that if you're a new Who viewer, that's one more added.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you're already somewhat familiar with Sarah Jane, now you can kind of see why.
Well, and that's
was such
that's
an
another great
personal
reason
one.
for Genesis is her reaction to the Daleks and Davros
Yeah.
in the season 4 finale.
Yeah.
This is why.
It's certainly
okay.
Yeah,
sit down and watch this. You'll understand why.
Lends more weight
Yeah.
to the reaction. Yeah, I'm gonna go there. That's gonna wrap it up. Either those, no, not wrap up our discussion, but that's gonna wrap it up for me. As far as I think those are it's so hard to pick, and I'm just gonna go to those.
Yeah.
I can't pick one between the two because because I mean, City of Death is a different kind of Fourth Doctor than even Pyramid of Mars is, because Pyramid is early enough in Tom's run that he doesn't feel tired of the role. He's still got a lot of energy, and he's got that really great connection with Sarah Jane. I'd put Jane. But City of Death has a wonderful performance from Lalla Ward. I think that he and Lalla work the best as Doctor Companion in that part of his era. And I feel really bad, Sean, that I'm leaving Leela stories out. There are good Leela stories, but I just don't feel the attachment to the Leela stories that you do. And I don't think that any of those really kind of say Fourth Doctor, because Leela and the Doctor are so different in contrast that while that dynamic works in a storytelling point of view, if you're going to bring somebody in to kind of explore the Doctor, you kind of need to get somebody that he's more on par with than to be distracted by the fact that he's struggling to understand her, because he's always, no killing. He's not maybe understands wrong, but to connect or be the Professor Higgins to
Right.
her, Doolittle. I can't think of anything in there that I think you could drop somebody in and because you really have to explore their dynamic from one point to the other. You know what I mean? So I don't think you could drop them in the middle there, or it would be a little disjointing to somebody that
It probably
doesn't
depends
understand
on
that dynamic.
Yeah, it probably depends on the story. I think I don't know that you would. I mean, obviously with Keith, we tried to do it. Well,
But we had already introduced him to.
other Tom Baker.
Other Tom
yeah,
Baker,
he'd already
yeah.
seen other Tom Baker, but with Leela specifically, we did go.
Yes. We
Face
did.
of the Enemy, or did we do Horror Thing
Face
Rock
of Evil.
first?
Oh, we did.
We did Horror
first.
Thing
We did
Rock
Horror
first.
Thing Rock.
I didn't see
Because we did it as a Halloween.
Because of the Halloween special.
I didn't see Face of Evil until just a couple months ago.
But we did the rest of them in order. We did Face of Evil, and then
I saw Robots of Death before that. I saw
No,
Talons
those
before
came,
that.
Those came out the same week,
Did that?
and so we did Face first, and then Robots.
Yeah, he's right. The special edition came out. We
And then
did
Talons was much later, because
Was
that was
that
the
later?
Halloween special the second year.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
What am I going to do this year? But you could almost
Okay.
do Robots, just because even though Face of Evil definitely sets up the story of Leela and everything, you could probably jump into Robots and be okay with it, just because of where they go with it from there. You don't necessarily need that. And Robots is a great episode. It is another one that's it's got that weird humor. Don't throw hands at me. And I have to say the whole thing. Please don't throw hands at me.
Is Demons on the schedule? I'm jumping back to Third Doctor here, but is Demons on the
The
schedule?
Amons?
Yeah. Is it on there yet?
I don't think so.
There's your Halloween.
Ooh.
Sorry.
I suppose it depends on what else is going on with our 50th anniversary retrospectives at that point. But I mean, they're just For me, if you're gonna say
Ghostlight.
what story,
Ghostlight's a good one too.
I really do alternate between Genesis, which I think has a lot going for it for a new viewer, but also Pyramids of Mars. That's kind of the other one that I would come back
So
to.
they probably picked the right story.
I hate admitting that. I really do. I've thought on it, and I've thought on it, and I've thought on it. And every week that we come to the table with our retrospective of this Doctor, we go, yeah, they were probably right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think
Because Aztecs,
We didn't-
Tomb,
Well, we disagreed with
we
Third
disagreed
Doctor.
with
Yeah.
the Third Doctor, which was, I can't remember.
that
It was the wrong Auton story.
Oh, yeah. Terror
was
of the
Spearhead.
Autons. No, Spearhead, you're right. Spearhead.
Spearhead's
we
Space
thought
as
Terror
well.
would
Yeah.
be a better one.
Yeah.
But it was when they announced, it's Pyramids, and we were like, yeah, it's Pyramids. But it really is a good choice for somebody that's coming from that New Who background. So what's the overall? You said City of Death is yours.
Or Pyramids. I don't know. It's City of Death.
Wait a
City
minute.
of Death is it. City of Death is the overall.
I don't know if I have an overall. I don't think I still. I feel like there's more for me to explore.
There is. I mean,
So I don't want to give an overall. yet.
obviously we've given you, I think, a pretty good.
a good amount.
A good dose of it. I mean, you've only got a handful of Sarah Jane stories left. You've only got
A handful of
a handful of Leela, maybe two, I think, if that.
Well, let's see.
And then, obviously, the latter end stuff.
Terror, Planet of Evil. I'm missing,
Terror of the Zygons.
which is Terror
Which
of
is
the
now,
He
yeah.
hasn't seen Underworld and
just those two. Sarah Jane, and Mask of Mandraga. Only 3 Sarah Janes I'm
Three
missing.
Sarah Janes left.
Mandragora.
Image of the Fendal, Underworld are the only 2 Leelas I'm missing.
You've seen all of Romana 1.
Yes, I have. I've seen I'm missing. No, wait. We watched Creature from the Pit, or did we
No,
not?
we
No,
haven't
we've
seen
skipped that one.
Creature from the Pit. I haven't seen, and then
Pretty much the last.
the rest.
Actually, Creature from the Pit would be a pretty decent Halloween one too.
So I feel like there's a lot of
And
potentially
and,
great
like,
stories.
You've
that there
only
could be.
seen one from season 18. So
Yeah.
all the rest are, like we said, with the exception of Megalus, kind of the.
And if I were
necessary
to,
to see them all together.
if you tried to force me down, I'd want to go by either Companion or Era because
Well, it's easier to do Companion because there's technically only 3.
Yeah,
You throw Adric in there, but I don't count him as a fourth Doctor.
I haven't seen Adric yet. So if I go by Companion,
And
it'd
Leela and
be-
Misa for that
Yeah,
matter.
yeah,
but
that's
but
just
that's
it.
all. Those are all kind of crushed into the last season.
And
so.
that's why I was not surprised
No.
with the retrospective. That
In fact,
BBC
Adric-
America did.
I would
Misa
have
and
fine with
Dan.
skipping
Yeah,
that part. Yeah, that
absolutely.
makes
because
sense.
it makes sense that
They
those are
were all-
Fifth Doctor
yeah.
companions.
Yeah. That's still 2 years of Leela of Romana without mentioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two incarnations of
Because
Romana.
Those are kind of the you've got Sarah Jane, you've got Leela, you've got Romana. So those are kind of your companions for if you're going to break it down by era.
I really like
Do it by
Stones.
Companion.
I like Stones of Blood. I like City of Death for Romana.
You could even break that to 4 because
Each Romana
because each
different
Romana
enough.
has a different personality. They each are different
You could.
enough that I think you
Yeah.
you really probably should, because they all brought a different personality to the character than Mary Tam did. So
But then you've got Deadly Assassin with no companion,
no companion at all. The only one though.
wedged right there in the middle.
The only one.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't.
No.
I don't think that's. While I thoroughly enjoy that story, but mostly because we get more of a peek at Gallifrey. I certainly would not ever introduce anybody to.
No, it's 2 Waters of
No,
Mars.
no, it is.
You
Oh,
can't,
yeah.
you can't jump
Absolutely
in there.
not.
I don't know. Well, I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and it kills me to say it. It really does, which is weird. I would probably say Pyramids of Mars is my overall pick for the thing, and it sounds weird to hear me say that because I love Pyramids of Mars, but I have issues with it as well. But looking back, it meets the criteria of what I think of when I think Fourth Doctor era, we've got a very strong villain, which I think the Fourth Doctor's era is well renowned for. We've got a great companion. Sarah Jane truly gets her moments to shine. I mean, she picks up that gun and is going to detonate the dynamite and blow up his spaceship. I mean, that's not something. I mean, that's
something
almost
to take lightly.
That's almost Ace with a baseball bat. Not quite. But, and then we get the prerequisite creepy running through the woods with mummies. There's that, and inevitably there's
as badly imagined as those mummies were.
Yeah.
With the large chests that crush you. I'll crush you between my companions. But anyway.
Especially the way they're angled upwards.
Yeah,
right there at the neckline.
They suck.
But yeah,
So maybe they are designed well.
It just really has all those nifty little things that I think of.
The nifty little Fourth Doctor cliches.
Yeah. I mean, that's really kind of what it boils down to. In my mind, there are stories that are better than Pyramids of Mars. There are stories that I enjoy more than Pyramids of Mars, but it's probably the most. And it's tough for me to say that because I love Android Invasion. That one is very iconic for me because it also has all those moments. It's got a rock quarry, it's got a woods, it's got a not so great realized monster who I think is a cool villain, but his look is not necessarily there. It's got units still. So we've got just the last little vestiges of that, and I love Harry, and Sarah Jane's in it. So it's got all those things writing on it that is
it's very fanboy, but it's not very.
Yeah.
It's
not Fourth Doctor,
right?
It's almost a callback to the Third Doctor.
Well, no, not so much that, but it lacks. It does lack that gravitas of the Fourth Doctor. I mean,
that's one of those things that I think Pyramid of Mars actually, in my mind, kind of counts against it. Is when Tom Baker's standing there at the beginning, kind of being all self-important about I walk in eternity, and I'm a Time Lord, and I've lived 900 years, and Sarah's playing with him in the background, going, "Oh, I know, it's so important," and he kind of snaps at her because he's like, "Well, you don't get it," and then the adventure starts, and that scene in particular almost feels out of place.
See,
I get it, I understand why they did it, but it really
I disagree because I think that it while the Fourth Doctor is fun and silly and whimsical, it still shows the weight of who he is and where he's come from. And so I think that plucked down in there briefly at the beginning would give a new viewer or anybody a sense of what the weight of the world that the Doctor is carrying with him. And then we do step away from that. We get the fun, whimsical Fourth Doctor that we all love. So I think you're getting a careful balance there, and I think that's why that plays where that works.
It works more for us who have seen the previous adventures.
Well, I suppose it's true.
It's very
but if you're stepping
reminiscent.
in, you'll see that there are two sides to this character.
Well, this is just it, though. It was done, honestly, better in Rose when Eccleston says,
well,
I can
so
feel
too.
the turn of the
yes,
earth.
No, I think
but
so,
that's
too.
because we'd already been introduced to this manic madman who's running around, run and grabbing her hand and looking at plastic and, playing with his ears in the mirror and trying to flip cards and failing.
It plays with this.
But then he
plays
has
with
this
it
big,
differently.
Right,
Yeah.
but then he has this big, gravity moment. Whereas in Pyramids of Mars, it's just right off
Starts
the
out
bat,
with
it's
the gravity.
solemn. Yeah. And then we kind of go to the light and humorous, as it goes
I
on. So I
sort of
think
see
it's a little
that.
unbalanced. But,
If you were able to kind of flip-flop that in there as they did in Rose, it probably would work better.
well, and you also get that moment of gravity, when he takes her to the future that Sutek has destroyed everything.
Yes,
You kind of get that moment already. So for me, it almost makes that first moment a little redundant in a way.
Maybe.
But I understand why it's there, and I love the moment in and of itself.
I do too.
I don't want to bring that down, but it just I don't know. That's Pyramids of Mars, but I'm so torn on it
Yeah.
because again, I could go Invisible Enemy. That for me has everything that it has everything that I would want in a Doctor Who. It's got Tom Baker being witty and fun.
It's got lots of corridors.
It's got corridors. It's got
really bad sets.
no. That to me is that's
That's
Doctor
part
Who
of Doctor
running
Who.
through his own mind. That is what it is. So there's so much of that one that I could say, but it's not necessarily for the entire.
Doctor
era.
really ran his own mind. Oh my gosh.
How's that any different than Deadly Assassin? Running around the Matrix
At least
in
it
somebody
doesn't have
else's
a
mind.
freaky
I mean, come on.
clown.
Yeah. Scary clown under the water.
It needed a scary clown.
No.
We all float down here.
A scary clown makes nothing better.
The giant cotton balls were scary. As it was. So are you gonna pin one down or not? You're gonna abstain.
I thought he went with
furiously,
Genesis. Sorry.
And that's what I'd introduce somebody to.
Oh,
is
that's
Genesis.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's what I'll go with.
Okay.
I hate to go with the rest of fandom, but
giant clams.
Sometimes there's a reason why things
Well,
are the best
yeah.
and most popular.
and there's other things
and then there's
that
Talons.
like Talons. Yeah. And I'm fully expecting Terror of the Zygons. It's been built up so much that I don't think it's going to be any good.
It really is. It's built up. You might go into it with too high of expectations.
Well,
it's one of those ones that
actually, I'll probably go
Now
into
I'm not going to put it on the schedule at all.
It's an
We're just
enjoyable
We're going
story.
to leave it as the lost episode. That
It's an
never was.
enjoyable story. It's just one of those ones that I'm not quite sure why it's put so high. But
I'll probably go into it with the same expectations I did with Talons of, okay, everyone thinks this is a great story. I don't think it's going to be that great.
Well,
we were already warning you off. That was a very good story.
I think.
And because of my experience on Talons, I now expect this not to be that great.
I'm not going to warn you off on Zygons because it's an enjoyable story. It's.
I think the mystique is just built up over the fact that because
They never re-released it.
not only that, but just because there's so much of the Fourth Doctor era that is a one and done villain. That's why we're seeing so many of them come back in Big Finish. That's why we're seeing so many of them now that we're getting little name drops
Because
in the
we
new
didn't
series.
get to see them
Because we
again in
didn't
the
get to
series.
see them come back. I mean, Cybermen and Daleks are easy. Sontarans, we've done that. But Sutek, Eldrad, Eldrad just made a comeback
Yeah.
in Big Finish. I keep wanting to say, is Jaggerfest? Jaggeroth. Jaggeroth.
No, Dragonfest.
No, Jaggerfest is the thing clinging to the ceiling. With
Oh, right.
Jaggeroth
Jaggeroth,
is
is Donovan.
But Robot. I mean, yeah, okay, we're going to make fun of the robot. But how many robots have we had? Not that robots are iconic to that particular story. Obviously, they're a sci-fi trope. But just the idea of a creator and his robot.
Yeah.
That idea has come back over and over again. The Nyman have come back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's almost like these writers are hungry for things of this era because they weren't.
That's the most.
reintroduced
I
over
think.
and
I
over
think
and
that's
over
the
again.
most impressive thing about the era is how many unique villains they had throughout the entire run,
I mean, you go and you look at
which makes it
Well, the
more.
Fendon's even been
yeah.
revisited.
Which the idea that most of these were one and done makes even a better case of you can't pin down a story to represent the era is because there's not a common foe.
Yeah.
Each foe presents a different challenge and a different perspective for the Doctor and a different part of the Doctor to deal with.
I guess I forgot about the Master. He does make a return appearance.
Well,
So that's another
But
one.
towards the end, as we set up the fifth Doctor.
Deadly Assassin.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah, he's-
well,
'Cause
he is right
spoilers
there.
otherwise-
But that's just it. We would have.
He's a twofer.
That's
but-
just it, though. We would have had just the Master once in that era as well,
Right.
had we not
Had they
used
not
that
set
as
it
a,
up.
as a
Yeah.
setup.
I mean, look at the Wirren.
It was bringing Moriarty back for the fifth Doctor. is
The
what it
Wirren
was.
are a great villain, but just one.
Yeah, one
Green bubble wrap, and we never got over it. So, okay, we're going to move away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Giant rats in the sewers.
I
Okay,
don't know.
we're done.
You could,
Well, there's a reason for that. But
with the exception of the Master, you could almost say that. I mean, the Master kind of reoccurred in the Fifth Doctor's era frequently, but I guess we had
And the
we
Ronnie.
had the Kinda, or not Kinda, the yeah,
whatever the snake
yes,
thing
yes,
were,
yes.
yeah.
Although we brought a lot of people back because we brought Omega back. I'm getting ahead of myself.
It's more of the Fifth Doctor's run would be more of a retrospective of the entire series villain wise than any other one.
Well, and a lot of those in the Fifth Doctor's era were specifically brought in during the 20th anniversary season because
Yes.
every episode was purposely designed to bring back somebody from the past
Yeah.
Right.
that they had already encountered. Which you just, I mean, even the Key to Time has now been recycled. How many times?
well,
Big Finish has done it at least
Key-
once.
Key to Time-
Time.
even recycled from
Just Big
Doctor
Finish
Who.
did it twice.
The idea, at least, Keys of Marinus. That's the same idea.
Yeah.
revisited.
But then the Black Guardian comes back as well in a later incarnation.
Well, that's true.
So, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's such a rich tapestry of villainy. You look at the Andy's art poster that he did with all of the villains
It's
around the outside.
jam-packed.
It's full.
It is
And this is if you have this on your desktop, it's wall to wall bad guys.
It really is.
And it's just that there's so much of them.
Which makes the Eighth Doctor so sparse.
But Eric Roberts
All
is
right.
there.
Is there anything else you guys want to say about the Eighth Doctor, the Fourth Doctor, before we wrap up? Well, in that case, what's next on the
There was. I forgot the Facebook poll that
Oh,
everybody
yeah,
voted
yeah.
in.
How'd that turn out?
That none of you voted in.
I think I voted.
Keith did vote, actually. We have a tie.
That's
Maybe
like
not
asking,
surprisingly.
It's like asking me which of my children is my favorite.
Tied for first in the people who voted in this poll: City of Death, Genesis of the Daleks, and Pyramids of Mars.
Hey!
All of them got 5 votes. Some of them from the same people.
Which is funny because you picked one, you picked one, and I picked one.
We're
I didn't
all
even look at-
right.
I didn't even look at that poll either. Wow, that's great.
Well, now see, if you'd voted in the poll, City of
I
Death
feel
would have
vindicated.
clearly won.
Yeah, that's true.
So-
I feel vindicated now.
I think so. I think it's well balanced. Deadly Assassin had 4, which I think is kind of interesting.
Well, I think that's one of those ones that it's a great story.
It is a great story.
It's a peek into Gallifrey and the politics and the corruption, but it's not one that I think epitomizes.
It's not representative.
Well, maybe it does the best because it is companionless. Maybe because it only focuses on the Doctor as our hero. Maybe that one.
It gives him more room to breathe and less room to.
Maybe
so
that
it's
gives it
more-
some-
it's
Yeah, but he
more
does
for
pick up the
Doctor.
one guy essentially as a companion to the story.
The not the Castellan, the Chancellor, whatever he is.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, he essentially it's a one-off companion. It's like Adelaide Brooke.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, but it's not a companion that I mean.
By definition,
it's
when you have
more
a
of a-
companion, they
yeah.
have to go off and do
Well,
something.
yeah, but-
you know,
Exactly.
so-
Exactly. It's
Oh, okay, I
more
see
of
what
a
you're
just a useful
An actual assistant.
person. Yeah, assistant. There you go.
Yeah, this is pretty much more you stand here and
Right.
react to the clever things that I'm doing versus, I'm going to go get captured and escape and then save the Doctor and, maybe one of these instances. Interesting 3-way tie for third between the Ark in Space, Robot, and the Leisure Hive. That surprises me.
Those are certainly, if you were to look at the best of Tom Baker lists, those would certainly make it up into the higher echelons. But all right, well, what's next on the schedule, Sean?
Next on the schedule, or the schedule as we like to say.
I don't know if we'd like to say it, but we do.
I like to say
say
it.
it a lot.
I like to say it. Next week we're doing The End of the World with Christopher Eccleston, Glenn's favorite person at the moment.
I still like his
for
Doctor.
Friday Night Who.
I just don't like him.
And
I don't. I'm not going to go there.
You're not going to go there again. That's right. You just be quiet. You. And that's because
Chris, you're a fine man and actor.
How come you weren't in G.I. Joe 2?
They didn't ask me.
No. Chris.
Oh.
They kind of wrote him out. Destro, you're out of the band. That's all he got. That's literally the line.
Just move on, because I'm going to get on soapbox again.
So we do Into the World for Friday Night Who. And that's because we are doing 2 Big Finish stories. So number 61, Faith Stealer, and number 62, The Last, more McGann in the Divergent Universe, because we're going to try and power our way through that. And then next week, we will hopefully have somebody who has stepped up and purchased it. We're going to do Planet of Fire with Peter Davidson, and Keith will get to see the glory that is Perry's origin.
Hoot!
Got a little peek tonight.
That's true, I did.
And then the show that week will be another Big Finish, Eye of the Scorpion, and Planet of Fire. And then
Let me guess, Eye of the Scorpion is a Fifth Doctor story.
Mayhap.
And Perry.
And Perry.
So I'm going to listen to it before I see.
Not necessarily.
I'm not going to listen
You
to
can
it
do
over the
Saturday.
weekend.
You can disc golf to it.
That's true. I could disc golf to it.
And then releasing in North America, finally, on June 11th, there are 2 new Third Doctor stories that are coming out. Inferno and Mind of Evil.
They're not new.
Well, they're new, they're new to us.
New to DVD.
Well, no, I guess they're not even new to DVD. They're new to special editions.
Oh, they are special
Are they special
editions?
editions?
Yeah, you're right.
Inferno is, I think, Mind of Evil's the one that was colorized or something, wasn't it? Or was that the one that didn't have the colorized episode, so it's actually still black and white? And it's coming out on DVD. Now,
I only knew of 2 that were colorized.
we're not doing Mind of Evil yet, but we do have Inferno on the schedule, and because it's a long one, it's a 7-parter, we're breaking that into 2 weeks. So we're going to do Inferno the week of 6/14, and then finish up on the 21st of May, or June, on those. And that will be right in the middle of our 5th Doctor stuff going on, so we'll have all kinds of additional things there. So, and all this is on the website as well. And one special announcement to wrap things up with, because you asked for it, and because I have been very successful in my weight loss program. I am not quite there yet. I still have 6 more pounds to go. But after these 6
The last
pounds...
5 are the hardest.
The last 5 were the hardest, but these 6 pounds, well, they're not even the last, but they're the last to get me to this goal. These 6 pounds, I will be 40 pounds lighter than my post-stroke weight, which is a huge deal, and that's when I promised myself I would buy Trial of the Time Lord. So I have 6 more pounds to go, which means I'm putting it on the schedule for July so that there's now a deadline.
Hey!
So
Is that our 6th Doctor month?
that is our 6th Doctor month. So plan on all Colin Baker for Friday Night Who in July.
I just want to get it squeezed in there before the anniversary special in case there's some Valley Art stuff.
Well, that has something to do
There
with
is an
it.
added bonus. So
Not to mention last week I said you've got to get that on the schedule.
yeah, you kind of yelled at me. But then I got on the scale and decided, you know what, I think I'm going to risk it. I'm going to put it on there. So
All right. Very good. Well, if that's going to do it for this week, until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Coffee.
Be seeing ya, and have a jelly baby.
Thank you.
Bitte.
I don't drink it. I don't get it.
Oh, wait. We just signed off and forgot to mention, stick around.
Go!
Because Dr. Phil has some audio for us, and I believe it's on Robot, which we did watch for Friday Night Who this week. So stick around. He's next. In fact, he's right now.
Look, Brigadier, look! I think it's starting.
Well, here we go again.
Dr. Phil again with another installment of Adventures in Time, Space, and Music. In this segment, we'll be looking at the music of Dudley Simpson. Here we will look at his work on Serial 4A, Story 75 Robot, which originally aired between December of 1974 and early 1975 on BBC One. After the rich acoustic textures of Dudley Simpson that we find in the late Troughton and early Pertwee eras, to the synthesizer-heavy musical world of Doctor Who in Series 8, we get the synthesis, no pun intended, between these extremes in Simpson's score to Tom Baker's first outing as the Doctor, Robot. Here, Simpson has, once again, a story filled with the real world of acoustic instruments and the otherworldliness of synthetics, a perfect match for a new era. While Series 12 has many interesting scores, from Dudley Simpson's masterpieces The Ark in Space and Genesis of the Daleks, to Kerry Blyton's final Doctor Who score in Revenge of the Cybermen, which is augmented by the uncredited Peter Howell, Robot sticks out in an interesting way. Robot is a score for the Unit era, but is large, grand, and confident, easily as much as his score for Pertwee's Doctor's introduction in serial AAA Story 51 Spearhead from Space. With extremely memorable brooding music for the K-1 robot, easily connecting it to classic monster movies such as King Kong, this is already the beginning of classic Baker-era sound, with highlights for the clarinet and bass clarinet, as well as brass instruments such as horn and trumpet. The percussion instruments here, such as timpani and snare, represent unit in this story. The score itself varies from serious to whimsical, especially as Baker selects his costume.
Is something wrong?
You've changed.
Oh, no, not again.
No, I didn't mean your face. I meant your clothes.
Don't you like them?
UNIT is supposed to be a security organization.
Do you think I might attract attention?
It's just possible. One moment.
Well, how about this?
Much better, Doctor. Now, if you've quite finished with your wardrobe...
I'll try again if you like.
No, let's settle with that, please. Now,
Time
Doctor...
we were off.
Off?
To visit the scene of the crime.
The thing is, there's been
Tell
another
me
robbery.
on the way, Brigadier. Tell me on the way. You must cultivate a sense of urgency.
While many credit Planet of the Spiders as being Letz's farewell to Pertwee-era Doctor Who, I would argue that we get a version of UNIT, musically as well as on-screen, that is confident going out with a bang, as opposed to the whimper that we have in Android Invasion. While Zygons, of course, is a great late UNIT story, it is still amazing that you have a real flavor of the UNIT era in Robot, and that flavor is Dudley Simpson. Probably the most varied and affect of his Series 12 scores, it strikes me the sheer variety of the synthetic textures as well as the orchestral colors makes this score a perfect contrast to the synthesizer-heavy score of the Ark in Space or the equally bleak score to Genesis. While both of these aforementioned scores are among Simpson's best, Robot also exhibits a degree of fun that isn't often seen again for many years, as the Hinchcliffe-Holmes influence turns the mood darker indeed. Here in Robot we have a composer who knows how to make Doctor Who work, and even in the final moments, leads us confidently into the closing credits as the Doctor, Sarah, and Harry depart Earth for new adventures.
About that dinner at the palace, Her Majesty... Yes. Well, I'll tell them you'll be a little late.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.